What's going on, motherfuckers? Welcome to the Crocs and Hot Pockets podcast. My name is Knackers, and today is, I almost said Sunday, because I always do this podcast on Sunday, but it's not. It is Thursday, it is March 18th, and this is episode 141. And today, our special guest on the podcast is AdorkablyRini. How's it going?
Hi, it's going pretty well.
Good. Thank you for being on the show today. So we have quite a bit of stuff to get into. So normally we take like the first, 45 minutes just to shoot the shit and chat and catch up. Doesn't mean we can't do it a little bit. So what I want you to do is really quick, just introduce yourself to the audience, kind of tell them what you do. And if you feel like telling them why we're here, you're more than welcome to do that as well.
Nice. Hi, so I'm Rini, AdorkablyRini, pretty much on the internet these days. What I do, that's changed quite a bit over the last couple decades because I have a huge varied background. So it's gone everywhere from like professional blogger to science lab to radio DJ and everything.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Manager of a toy store at one point. I don't know. I toured with a circus punk rock marching band in my 20s. Like,
okay. All right, we're officially shooting this shit for 40 minutes before we talk about anything. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I did a lot of stuff. Most recently, people know me on Twitch as just a moderator. I've modded for the last 7 years. However long I've been on Twitch is however long I've been modding. And most recently, I'm the former CEO or COO, not CEO, COO of Streamer Square. I just stepped down in January, and I am the head of support for Pretzel Rocks, which hopefully all of you know and love and use.
Yes, both Streamer Square and Pretzel Rocks.
Yes.
Both I'm very, very fond of. Is Streamer Square how we met, or is Pretzel Rocks how we met?
We met through my best friend Wes Sisa, actually, because you sold him a little green keyboard, and he got excited and recorded a video in his car. I'm like, who's this Knackers guy? Like,
fucking Wes. Okay, so I had originally thought that it was for me posting in the Pretzel Rock support forum over and over with. I'm a tech support person, and I usually know the first couple steps to troubleshoot something. Every single time that I place a support request with Pretzel, the solution was pretty much turn it off and turn it back on again, like every time. And I was so ashamed that I couldn't come back to the Discord for a little while. I'm like, these people are going to think that I'm just the biggest bozo, but the support team, obviously ran by you, is fucking fantastic over there. They're always so kind.
Yeah, and now it's like, we have a refresh button. You should hit the refresh button. So I tell people to do that, or like, can you check your settings? Which, when they go to check their settings, we actually have the power to see everyone's play tokens, which, like, they call me lawful good, but I'm like, there's some chaos in here too that y'all don't see. And I go through and check people's play tokens to see if they're actually, like, have the right filters on. And so if they're getting YouTube claims, did they actually have YouTube save turned on? I can tell.
Yeah.
Granted, I try to be nice to them when they mess up and they lie to me. I'm like, whatever. If that makes them feel better, that's fine. I don't care. But like, I like knowing whether or not, like, if they're being truthful. Because I don't know. I am someone who likes solving puzzles, like not like jigsaw stuff. Like, I like questions. I love curiosity and things. That's probably why I'm always going to be a student somewhere. And so, like, right now, my big thing is like getting all the streamer stuff figured out. Like, how many solutions can we provide streamers? And so, like, that's just what I love right now. How can I educate people on things? Like, that's why I went into anthropology recently. Is I love learning about culture, what makes people do things. And I think all of that has just kind of played into each other and kind of landed me where I am now, which is...
You're in the perfect gig, because if there's one thing that carries the streaming industry, it is culture. And that's very, very strong. And when people always ask, why are you on Twitch? It's the culture and the community. It's something that doesn't exist anywhere yet. And it's not that it can't, but I think that there's, because of Twitch's such inspiring, humble beginnings, and the people that were involved at the beginning and what it has evolved into, I think it's I don't want to say it's like the cool kids club, but it is awesome to be a part of. Like to be a part of Twitch feels fucking awesome. It just feels great. I was going to ask. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, we've all also kind of grown up in this whole. We went from seeing the like Dateline to Catch a Predator stuff and like how to be careful on the internet. Like we grew up with all that, the AOL stuff and chat rooms. Like I remember being catfished in middle school. Like.
How?
This is from like
with a notepad? I don't, what kind of technology did they have?
Yahoo chat rooms. Someone found me from school and like, this is someone else from your class. I really like you. You should meet me here. No one showed up.
Damn.
This is like pre-2000. Yeah.
I will admit that the one time that I used AOL Instant Messenger to shield myself, somebody had told me that my girlfriend had cheated on me with some dude in a bathroom, and which ended up being true. And so I signed up. I did some crazy 007 shit where I created this account with a particular name that resembled one of his friends. I added one of his friends, or I added a bunch of his friends on AOL Instant Messenger, eventually added him, got onto this like conversation acting like I was one of his friends to try and like get information out of what had happened at the party. And then I eventually was like, oh, by the way, yeah, I'm so-and-so's boyfriend. And he's like, oh, fuck, okay. That felt awesome.
Having those kind of skills to know how to do not just the research, but this how to present yourself online, how to create accounts that are secure and safe so they can't trace it back to your original identity. Like all that stuff actually helps out with streaming, and I found even with moderating, because like we have had in my little family of mod families that have grown, come across not just trolls, but like straight up stalkers and abusers in the communities, and they ban evade like crazy. And so we've actually had it where like going through this really like obscure system, figuring out this person's new account and being able to ban them again across all of our communities. Be like, okay, yeah, this is the person who was stalking this other mod based on this part of their profile here and this thing here. Like, we can tell who it is.
Wow.
So I will apologize now. I have 2 cats. They have no boundaries.
I knew as soon as you went like this, as soon as I saw the hand go across, I'm like, there's a cat over there, isn't there?
Yeah.
You actually, you just brought up a really interesting point. I have never heard anybody say whether or not AOL Instant Messenger was susceptible to being hacked. Like, I've never heard anybody say, I tracked you down through AOL Instant Messenger, or I brute forced. I need to ask somebody who's hacked before if AIM was hackable, if it was easy to find where people lived, like getting external IP addresses. Because like one of the main things you think about with Skype is people could find your external IP, like just like that. I've never heard about any vulnerabilities with AOL Instant Messenger. Yeah,
I don't know if it's AOL Instant or maybe it was MSN or something. One of the early messengers, though, it would rat you out if you were watching porn on your computer, because I remember seeing that in the dorms a lot, because it'd be like you'd have it so like it'd be your iTunes, whatever you're playing, and then it'd pop up if you were watching porn, it would say that whatever the title was.
Somebody in chat, that's happened to somebody, and somebody's either going to speak up or I'm going to have to go searching. That's fucking awesome. I didn't know that. Oh god, I was still a Christian boy, a good Christian boy back then, though. And with them with no pornography.
No, this was at my little Mennonite liberal arts college. We would find people doing this. Like, granted, we were also a very like sex positive group. We had to be very careful because we'd have like a lot of like international people coming through the school to like representatives from other schools that we were partnered with, and so we had like all these like dignitaries, or not just dignitaries, but like officials from the school in China that we were working with. First college I got to work with a school in China like back in the 70s. They're there visiting. And my friend's dorm decides that all the guys there are just going to streak through campus. We're like, how do we arrange the tour so you miss all the penises? So, yeah, our school is known very much for streaking, being extremely, like, tolerant for the LGBTQ community, which was great. Like, I was very proud of being part of that. And then just unique little folksy people. Like even the professors would come to class barefoot. Like, yeah.
What? I feel like you live on a different planet. Like what you've briefly told me about your upbringing, the jobs that you've had, and these different occupations. I'm like, I'm so intrigued and blown away.
I may or may not be an enigma that's, wrapped around a taco or something. I don't know.
Seriously, like this is some of the most intriguing stuff that I've heard from somebody because this is, for anybody that doesn't know, this is the first time that Rini and I have ever talked kind of face to face, which is like the awesome byproduct of streaming and having common interest. So speaking of common interest, the reason that we're here today is we both are very, very passionate about copyrighted music, just a little bit, yeah. Proper use, DMCAs. We've both been following this very, very much. We've both had a hand in creating resources for streamers, and that's something that when I first got to know you, when I find people that have a passion for building resources, especially free resources for other people, that's like an instant connection, because I already know that there is a massive, massive similarity between my personality and your personality. And then there's a little bit of the work ethic is also I can take at face value, because I know that in your spare time, you choose to create things for other people that can be educational. And that's, I don't want to say that it's a rare thing, because so many people do it nowadays, but it's such a positive characteristic that I look for in a person. So we got to talking, and when I realized how much of a hand Rini had in creating the streamer music resource on Streamer Square, I said, all right, I think we should probably just do an end-all, be-all podcast about DMCA, copyrighted music, go over resources, answer questions, and that's how that podcast came to be, or this podcast came to be. So what we're going to kind of start with is what DMCA is, like very briefly, because by now a lot of people already know what it is, kind of highlight some of the resources, and then just get into kind of what are the biggest questions that we want to answer in this podcast. So regarding DMCA, what the hell it is, Rini, do you want to take it, that first link, if you wanted to read off those first couple, or however you want to start it?
Yeah, so the DMCA is actually one section of the copyright law. And so we know it mostly as streamers as this annoying thing that pops up that won't let you play the music you want to play. Cat number 2.
I heard it.
And so that's how we know DMCA. It actually works for any type of digital media. So anything that can be copywritten and or infringed on the internet is part of the stipulations for that. And primarily the goal of the DMCA is to protect the platform, not the streamer, not even the artist. It's there to protect the platform from its own users. And so the big issue that we're seeing now with Twitch is if it's not complying with DMCA, they can lose what's called safe harbor. This means that the platform can be held secondarily liable for this, which I actually need to check my verbiage on that. There's like very specific ways that you talk about this stuff, which we'll talk some about how Twitch is even talking about this. They had their town hall yesterday with DJ Wheat and Jeremy, and if you go back and watch that, like Jeremy has very, very specific language that he uses when talking about certain aspects of this. And just like, this is where the lawyers came in and wrote stuff for them, which I do want to say, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not actually read the full thing of the copyright law or DMCA, but I know someone who has, and she has helped me a lot with these things. While I am an employee of Pretzel, I'm not speaking on behalf of Pretzel right now. This is just me, someone who's done a lot of education on this. And if I get things wrong, we will try to correct them, because like I know a lot and I've had to learn a lot in a short period of time, but I don't know everything, and everything changes pretty well. I won't say everything changes pretty quickly. It's just more of we get to learn about them quicker than I don't know. It's just things become clearer as they get discussed more and more, and so
Right.
Yeah, copyright law takes forever to change.
It really does. And it is a little crazy that it has taken us and Twitch this long to kind of talk about this stuff. Yeah. I'm glad that we're finally getting to a point like to see DMCA referenced on a Twitch official broadcast was kind of like a massive, I don't want to say slap in the face. It was just a major eye opener because like, okay, finally they are addressing. I just noticed it's right at the top here. It says published by Rini, November 29, 2020. I didn't notice that before. For anybody watching, the website that we're looking at right now is Streamer Music, which is a website that was produced under Streamer Square, correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, a Streamer Square resource project. It was something that Loco was also very passionate about. She wanted to have this done. And then over the course of a week and a half, I built out this site, did almost 80 to 95% of the content on it. A lot of the ones that are just leaked resources, those are ones that the whole team gathered, but anything that's like full text, written context, especially the FAQ, that was mostly me. So like this is my legacy for Streamer Square, basically.
Gotcha.
And I'm really proud of it.
Good, you should be. I don't know if you noticed, but this is actually the same exact theme that I use on my website. I'm like, all right.
It's a good theme. I like it.
It really is nice and simple, and I love the typeface that they use with it as well. So it's also a little crazy to me how even here in 2021, there's still debate about what is and what isn't about DMCA. And that's definitely some of the things that I'm happy to clear up a little bit later. Like what a DMCA is, what the Twitch mutes mean, what that means for the streamer. To hear people still say, yes, it is okay to play live. You just can't save your VODs. I know that's like one of the biggest Jesus Christ moments for people like us that live and breathe this. There's a part of me that cannot be angry because I know that there's some that they maybe just don't know, but it's kind of like driving with your eyes closed. Going into it, you should have a good idea before you even get your license that driving with your eyes closed is probably like a really bad idea. But for some reason, it's just like this Wild West free range thing where people just come in, they do whatever they want, and then they get spanked and they go, what the fuck? Why am I like this? And that's something that I kind of hope to clear up. Yes.
And also, sorry, I think my internet stuttered for a bit.
Oh, no, it's all right. I still see you.
Okay, good.
So, real quick, I'm just going to read like these first three things word for word because I think it's important to kind of get this point across. A DMCA takedown notice is a formal written request to take down and remove allegedly infringing content, i.e. content that is not licensed for use by the content creator, so in this instance, a streamer. Can only be issued by the copyright's holder, the actual owner of the infringing content, or the acting agent. And then I like how you differentiated the takedown notice and the copyright strike, because that's something that I didn't know right away, because they're kind of like interchangeable terms to the unknowing. Yeah. So good to differentiate. A DMC strike or a copyright strike is an infraction or warning sent to the content creator by the platform after the platform has received a takedown notice from the copyright's holder. These are not something the law specifically talks about, but platform-specific rules and guidelines. So the platform gets the takedown notice, and then the content creator gets the DMCA or the copyright strike.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's like, they don't have to do that. Like, they don't have to they do have to keep track of it, which is something that they're doing better now, or they're starting to do, but it's they don't actually have to like have a formal strike system in place, which is why things like Content ID works for YouTube, because they have a method of sort of fighting some sort of reparations for the artists on that.
Before Twitch created tools for the users, for the end user, do you think that they had tools on the development side for tracking the stuff, or do you think that there was just nothing?
I want to say probably no. They likely didn't. That's just all just things that they're building out now. Because it's one of those things that's interesting is like, even things of, because the safe harbor all revolved on this repeat infringer concept. And so if users are repeatedly using this material that's not theirs and they're getting issued takedown notice after takedown notice, that's when it becomes an issue. And they're supposed to, at some point, have some sort of repercussions for the user on the platform if the platform wants to keep safe harbor. And so, like, Twitch used to say 3 strikes. They've taken that language out. We don't actually even know officially how many strikes you're allowed to have.
Have they?
And what counts as a strike. Yeah, they took that out of the most recent email, apparently.
I did not realize that.
And it's one of those things of, like, we don't know how they're weighing strikes because apparently back in, was it August, last July, when they had the big wave that went out and hit people, they just were like, oh, you've received at least 1 takedown notice. Like, we don't know if 1 takedown notice equals 1 strike. Like, we don't have that information from Twitch at this time. And they have not actually been clear about that. So, like, if you get 7 takedown notices on 1 stream, are they counting that as 1 strike? Are they counting it as 7? Like, and the fun thing is you can get DMCA'd on the mechanical, so that's the actual recorded music, and the composition side of it, the publishing side of it. So you can get DMCA'd multiple times for the same use of the song.
I did not realize that either. That had not clicked yet. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And all of this is like, and if you don't comply and take all this stuff down, because like legally Twitch has to remove that content. Like they legally have to remove it from the platform. If you counter, then they can put it back up. And I think there's some language in there about like how long they have to put it back up. It's kind of ambiguous still. But if you counter, you're then opening yourself up to a lawsuit because they can still say, it wasn't bad faith. You actually didn't have the licenses. We can now sue you for who knows how much money. Like this could be in the hundreds of thousands per use on both sides, the composition and mechanical.
So is that because you countering is basically you making official statement that no, I am legally able to use this, and then that's pretty much like you're getting in the ring at that point. Yeah,
which the post on how DMCA process works is super long, and in the long down part, it actually says like, way down it talks about counter notifications. That counter notification has to meet legal requirements and clear explanation of how you have the rights to the removed content. They forward that on to the claimant. The claimant will have 10 business days to provide evidence that they've initiated court action to keep their content down. And this is all from just YouTube. So like there are very specific, YouTube has like very specific things written out. Twitch, a little less, but like they do state like you have to have, all this has to be a written notice. It can be digital or hard copy. So this is not an automatic bot process. All of this is like an actual written notice. You have to identify the material. You have to have your statement of consent that all of this is done in good faith, and that like a statement under penalty of perjury that you actually have the right to do this, that you've actually the material has been removed. Like they have to show that the material needs to be removed in good faith. You have to show that in good faith, no, you have this. It all gets kind of messy. And you have to have like your full legal name, address, physical address, telephone number, and all that, and a signature. So like it's all pretty big. Like no one's just gonna do this for funsy doodles. Like,
right. So if there was any question after today as to why you should just not play cop, I mean, just from the last 10 minutes of discussion of going into what this can entail if you decide to leave your butt cheeks open, this is what you could possibly be getting into. I have a question for you, and this is kind of just like a theoretical. Do you think that Twitch bans the user because that is the appropriate punishment, or do you think that is the quickest and easiest way for them to locate and get rid of the content without actually having to go searching for the content?
I think it's a little twofold, but I think part of it is that it is an appropriate punishment for this. If you are a repeat offender, you need to be removed from the platform. It sucks, especially because like we live in an industry that is born out of doing illegal copyright stuff. Like streaming games is illegal.
Yeah.
The gaming industry just happens to find this to be all like copacetic, and they get a good thing out of it. This whole argument that the musicians should just be happy for the exposure and people are going to go out and buy the records, that kind of money turnaround and just like it's not there. It's
I
really
hate that
not.
argument. I wrote a little piece for myself later in the script, Knacker's rant about streamers' justification for playing music. So we will definitely get into that.
Yeah.
Where did I lost my script. There it is. Okay, so next, I just really quickly wanted to touch on 3 different resources that I have built, Rini has built, and one that Devin Nash has built, because I think there's something that all 3 do really, really good, and I never believe in a single best thing. If you have a collection of things, you've got the best fucking toolbox in the house. So the first obvious resource that we've already referenced today, streamermusic.com. This is a resource that was built by Rini and the Streamer Square team, which just has, first of all, fantastic descriptions and terminologies and FAQs regarding DMCA. You've got links to a lot of different resources, both free and paid, which is pretty much like a massive database of music. I remember when I started building mine, or like I had mine in a very skeletal form for a super long time. And then I saw what you guys were building. I'm like, well, I'm just going to stop building mine. Because you guys kicked it. You guys knocked it out of the park. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And that's just like the first iteration of what we wanted it to be. Like, we wanted something where you could actually search and sort based on like, is it free? How much music is even in there? Can you search based on what genres you want? Which was great until, I worked for Pretzel and we went from having 9,000 tracks over 12 stations to having over 300,000 in over 50 stations. And yeah, we kind of messed up their data a little bit. And other places are growing too. Like, I don't want to discontinue or discredit what the work the other people are doing. It's great, but obviously my home team is always going to be Pretzel. I think what we're doing is amazing. You should really try it. We're free. And
you know what, the upgrade from the small player to the larger player has been just such a game changer. And when I experienced one of my first support requests, I didn't realize how much control the new player had given me. So I was accustomed to hitting the start button, clicking on Pretzel, and then hitting play. And then I would just set it and forget it. And then you guys come out of the woodwork with bunch of options you could turn on and off and all these different stations. And I'm like, oh my God, I really should have taken a minute to go through and learn what was all possible with this new application. So it's been a fantastic use so far. Do you, off the top of your head, do you know how many tracks you guys have total?
It's over 100,000. In the player, there's over 2 million in our catalog.
Holy fuck! I did not think it was that large. Wow.
Yeah. We just broke the 2 million mark in our catalog, which we differentiate because of how complicated music licensing is. We intake all this music from the distributors that we get, but then it has to all be not only just, audio process for volume normalization, all this stuff. And we have to make sure the tags are there and everything. But we have to make sure every single thing is signed off by every single party involved, which, if you're a singer-songwriter, maybe that's just you by yourself. If you're someone like Drake, that could be 20 to 50 people per song.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine. Oh my God, just thinking about that makes my head spin.
So that's why we work with distributors now. A lot of our artists are part of PROs, which is publishing rights organizations. That way we have all this stuff so much easier and simpler to sign off on and prove that we have this. And so if something on Pretzel gets you in trouble, it's either they didn't have all the rights that they thought they did, and so we sort that out, or it's some sort of bad faith thing. Because if any artist from Pretzel issues a DMCA takedown notice to a Pretzel user, that's a violation of our contracts with them. That's a violation of the licensing, and Pretzel will be there to support all of our users for that. Free, premium, whoever, that's something we're not okay with.
That is one of the main reasons why I recommend subscription services. In the same way, today when you asked about building a computer, could I build you a computer? Absolutely. Am I going to stand next to you when something goes wrong? And it's not that I'm going to be like, you paid me, fuck you. But I just can't support you like a company could. Being able to... My audio got all shitty. Oh, you're back. I don't know.
Okay.
I think I have a bad. Hold on. Testing. I think I have a bad extension cable going from my headphones, so we're all good now.
I was gonna say it could be mine too, because like I love my mic, but I know my cable management, and my mic is probably touching 7 different things that it shouldn't be touching.
It sounded for a second. It sounded like you were in space, like super far away.
Nice.
But we're here now. So yeah, and that's why it's so important to have a company that will take care of that stuff for you and stand by you, because there are things. Now, granted, a creator shouldn't have to learn every in and out of music copyright and DMCA. That's why companies like Pretzel Rock exist, to kind of smooth that over a little bit.
Yeah, like I get people asking me, how much do you think it would be if I just want to like reach out to say this one artist, get this one song because it's what I want for my intro? I'm like, well, more than likely, because you're working with one of the 3 major labels, they're not going to answer your email. Like, I would actually be surprised if they would even answer someone like Shroud's email. Right. They might by now, but like I would still be surprised by that. And then how much money do you have to throw at that? Because it could be anywhere from a couple $100 per song. And there are websites out there that will like let you buy individual license for songs, and they can be as low as $45 per song. But like this can go in the multi-$1,000 range just for one song, especially because streaming is considered a commercial use. You're going to be making money off of this in some way, most likely. And
then depending on the agreement, what if after 3 years they go, holy shit, you have 40,000 viewers. Let's renegotiate that. And then you've now got 3 years worth of VODs that have this song at the beginning of every single stream. Are you going to fork up the cash to continue that contract, or are you going to find something else? So that's super important too.
Yeah, a lot of the websites where I've seen where you can buy individual licenses for songs, it's based on your viewer count, essentially, for streaming. And that's something to take in consideration. If you're a smaller stream, it might be cheaper for you, but like, say you start growing, that price is going to increase later for you. And so that's just, it gets tricky.
It does.
And also, like, who's going to own those rights to the songs? Like, who owns the Beatles now? Can anyone even name who owns them right now?
That's another point that I wanted to make sure that we highlighted when we went over another one of these points a little bit later, but I'm so glad that you said that. Really quick, before we get on to some of the important questions that Rini and I wanted to answer, the other resources. So I have a website called StreamWiki, which I call the Streaming Wikipedia, and it's basically just a collection of links that will point you to awesome resources. And right here at the top where it says resources, I have streamer music, Devin Nash's DMCA resource, which is this mega Google Doc that he built on stream with his community and other people that specialize in the industry. And it is just an awesome resource. He has his own list of music, but again, oh, hello, kitty. Also doesn't touch the streamer music website's resource list. And then we also have this Twitch music card, which is basically just a website that points you to a bunch of individual artists regarding their music, which again, Kat, you're killing me right now. He loves to chew on my shock mount. He'll rub against it and then he'll chew it. So I always just have to spin him around, and now he's going to be sad.
That's awesome.
But twitchmusic.carrd.co. And if any of you don't know, Card is basically a website for... It's kind of like Linktree, where you have a simple web page that just has a bunch of buttons to different links for your different social media platforms. So super cool. So again, if you want to get a link to any of those, streamwiki.com, and then all you have to do is just click on the audio portion of the table of contents. So if you go to the main page and you scroll down to Sorry, not audio. Excuse me. Music and sound effects right there. And again, Devin Nash's, he has the overview kind of touching on going into great detail about what the experience is like with, Billboard Top 100 songs, what happens when an artist gives you, their permission over a tweet instead of something written out. It goes into a lot of it. So 3 very, very awesome resources that are all at your disposal.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things that came out of DMCA's for a while. But so-and-so tweeted me and said it was okay. Oh, that tweet is not legally binding.
And it's awesome in the moment because they're like, holy shit, this millionaire just responded to my tweet and said yes. Yeah. But unfortunately that means nothing.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too, like, we have had artists who are on major labels say that they want to be on Pretzel. And it's amazing. We want them on Pretzel, but like it's a process to work with all of these groups. And so like this is why we don't have like Rihanna and Backstreet Boys, and like I would die to have Lizzo on there because I want Lizzo. But
my
like,
girlfriend
we don't have them
loves Lizzo.
Yeah. Like it's super complicated to get all these things signed off on. And so like it takes a lot of time. Like even us getting a Facebook safe filter, like we're primarily all Twitch. There's a tiny bit of YouTube stuff because YouTube's its own beast. But like getting all this stuff for each platform, like we don't have any of the new streaming platforms on there right now. Like I think there's 2 new ones that are out, and we currently don't have them just because like it takes process to change all that legal stuff.
Mm-hmm. Is Glimish one of the ones that you're referencing?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've reached out to him. It's one of those things too. It's like it's so new that like it's hard to say, yeah, our artists are cool with this. The thing though is like our sister company, 99 Lives, it's a record label. I believe that they're actually cool with it. And so like you just have to check out.
Company?
Yeah, they're owned by us.
I didn't fucking know that.
We're together.
Oh, sorry.
We're family. Yeah. Yeah, all of this was formed by the same group of people. Not McLaffy Taffy, Sunday, Ian, like all of them together. It's kind of their thing. Trey's in there somewhere. Heather runs the whole thing now. And it's like, there's just a huge group of amazing people that I'm just like, I'm part of this now.
I had no idea that those were linked. Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah. And so like, we love 99 Lives. We love hanging out with them. And it's one of those things that it's easy for us to like say, oh, hey, like we personally on Pretzel don't have this, but here's other places, like, because it's not just 99 Lives. You can check in with NCS, No Copyright Sounds, Argo Fox, Space Rebels, all of them. Like they have their individual statements of like what platforms you can use them on, and then what you need to do to use the music. Like, do you have to have something on screen saying this is from them? Do you have to have something in your description? Like, there's all these different things of what they prefer to have their usage for. And so you have to actually do your due diligence and use it.
Do you know if No Copyright Sounds has their own dedicated player, or are they still YouTube playlist?
I think that would be on the database on streaming music, actually. I'm thinking like, I don't know, but it's on the database. That's the in-game music database. That one's not. The in-game music database was a cool idea, but like there's so many video games that you just can't see.
It looks like it looks like the website has a login in a music library.
Yeah, the music library, and it's also a label. So yeah,
gotcha. Okay, and
I tried to differentiate on there, like what's a playlist, what's a library, what's a label. That way you can kind of get an idea of what they have.
One of my main concerns with using YouTube playlists, and I tend to tell people to stay away from them, and the only reason is because of autoplay. If you happen to end up somewhere that is no longer no copyright, and also when you
get boned hard on that.
You can like really, really hard. Even let's say you don't even go off of the path of that playlist that you've chosen. What can happen is a artist who had a song added to a playlist that's managed by a nobody, just somebody that got a couple songs together, decides that they no longer want their video. So they pull the song from the playlist, but you already have 17 VODs that have been using this song in the background at some point. And of course, they're not just going to take their 3 minutes of your VOD that they were on there. The whole VOD's coming down. Not only is the whole VOD coming down, your entire channel is coming down, whether it's temporary or permanent. So another reason I really try to push people towards getting a subscription service that has dedicated players, that has blanket sync licenses, is you're not don't fuck around with your content. This is your brand. This is your content. Don't fuck around with it. Find something that from beginning to end has your interests in mind, and just be safe, because I've seen people that use random Spotify playlists, random Apple Music playlists, YouTube playlists. There's nobody managing those that in the back of their mind go, you know what? If somebody happens to get DMCA'd, I'm going to go to bat for them, because they're not going to.
Yeah, and these playlists too, like the whole who decides what, like it's in our contracts for not just for Pretzel, but for any reputable subscription service or free service like this that's set up properly, what the terms are. And that's one of the things that's what music licensing you need to know is what are the terms? If they decide they no longer want to be part of this, how long do they have to express their intent and notice? Is anything that was covered during that time still safe? So we've had an artist decide they no longer want to be YouTube safe. They wanted to start claiming things. So we actually have a specific help article on just that artist saying, hey, anything that was during this time period, it was covered, it was licensed, you're still safe. It might still get claimed. All you have to do is follow these exact steps. Reach out to the artist, follow this email thing, fill out the form, and they will release that claim. And so, like, you need to have something that will do those kind of extra steps for you. So, like, if an artist decides to sell their whole catalog to someone else, what happens? Like, this is, like, getting things written down, having a paper trail is so important. Like, you really need this for anything. Like, if you're going to be using music on stream, if you're going to be commissioning an artist for things and you want to use that artwork in more than emotes and you want to sell it for merch, you need to have that there so no one can be like, hey, I don't agree with this anymore. Or say you turn out to be a terrible person and that artist doesn't want to work with you anymore. Like, technically, you have it in contract that, like, there's nothing in that contract, hopefully, that says, like, based on your ability to be a good human being. Which, I mean, you can put morality clauses in those things, too, if you really want to.
Right. And that was something that I didn't realize at first. Specifically, the media license. Like, when you get a piece of artwork commissioned, you can use it for whatever you want. But if you plan on selling merch or reselling that art, there's a whole nother story of fees and what's put in the contract. And I remember the first time somebody was like, yeah, I can do the art. It'll be $50. But if you want to be able to put this on merch, it's $300. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? just make it once and I'll reprint it. And that was a long time ago. But again, something that maybe not so many people know about just because they haven't been through it before.
Yeah.
One of the first questions that I wrote, which is like borderline kind of a rhetorical question, just because we've covered so much of it, was what was the biggest issues plaguing content creators? And you had this amazing quote that I love to throw into people's faces. When you use people's property, you need to ask permission.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things of like, every time I'm going up against an argument about why the DMCA is not fair, and all these things, I'm just like, it's all about consent. An artist has the right to say when and where and how their content is used. And that comes down to, like, I always throw it back and I'm like, okay, so let's say I decide to do my own podcast, but instead what I do is take all of Knacker's work, throw it up, put myself maybe in front of there just nodding. Like, Nick, you get to DMCA me for that shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, that's not okay. So it's just one of those things, like, would you want someone else to take your work that you worked on and like put all your blood, sweat, and tears in and to use it without any say from you? Like, this is why everything from our alerts that we use to there's so many things, and like it gets really complicated when you like, yeah, it's just, if it's not yours, don't use it.
Yeah. I have the utmost respect for artists and musicians because they wield things into existence that I am not capable of doing. So like anybody can stream, right?
Yeah.
There's a select amount of people that can make music good enough for you to play on stream. Like anybody can make music, but to have music that's good enough for you to play and enjoy and for your community to enjoy, that's so goddamn valuable, and we should absolutely treat it as such. And there's always the, well, I'm giving you exposure kind of deal. I guarantee that if you were like a big streamer and you saw how much money all of those clip compilation YouTube channels were making off of your content compared to that exposure that you're getting, you'd probably want a piece of the pie instead of that exposure.
Yeah. It's why, like, if you find yourself on Livestream Fails and you do not want to be on Livestream Fails, you can get yourself removed from Livestream Fails. Just, you know, maybe have a friend who's a lawyer who helps you a little bit.
Yep.
But yeah, you can, like, it just kind of blows my mind, this whole idea of, like, if it's on the internet, it should be free. Like, this is weird mindset that we've come with, and it changes culturally too. Like, I've seen some people like, well, I pay for my internet service, therefore anything that's on the internet should be free for me to use however. And I'm just like, it's like letting, like, I don't even know you. I'm going to go into your house and just, you know, sit and use your Xbox.
Right. And then take it when I leave.
Yeah.
One of the next questions, how can a content creator verify a piece of content is okay to use and monetize? And then kind of one of the sub questions we had was, how much info do they provide on their site or by contacting them? So just as a quick precursor before you kind of explain what you know, there was a TikTok that I did a couple weeks ago kind of highlighting DMCA and copyrighted music. And I had people reaching out to me asking me like, hey, is this okay? Is this okay? And my response to every single one of them was, look at the website, see what license they offer, see kind of what protection they offer in case something goes wrong, see their terms and conditions. Like you mentioned earlier, Pretzel, you're pretty safe if you use the Pretzel player on stream, and then if you have the YouTube safe option ticked, you can safely export everything to YouTube. And for me, that has been brainless. Like, I have just not had to worry about copyright claims. When you get into using some of these other services, especially if you're using like no copyright sounds or the other one I can't think of right now, if or using individual artists, some of them have different terms and conditions. I want my name in the corner of the stream. I just want a link to my Spotify in your YouTube description. And when it comes to maintenance and actually choosing which service you want to use, are you somebody who wants to go into every single VOD, highlight, and YouTube upload and paste the link to the individual artist? Or do you just want to know that when I upload my content, it's just covered? And when people say things like, well, things like Epidemic or Pretzel, they're too expensive. I don't understand. I don't think you understand what you're getting for that money a month. Like, Pretzel was $5 a month, and that was astronomically so underpriced, and now it is adequately priced, in my opinion.
And
it
you
was
can
a
still
steal
use it for free
for a year. Exactly. I actually, I try my hardest not to shit on people on social media anymore. Like, I'll shit and then reconcile immediately after, but there were people that were encouraging other people to block the Pretzel Rocks user in chat, and that blew my fucking lid. And that was just one thing I just could not stand for.
All of that.
Really?
Who has banned us? And the official statement is that banning or blocking Pretzel Rocks from your chat from posting at the attribution as a free tier member can potentially get you suspended from the application.
Thank you. I'm posting this to TikTok. What up, TikTok? You fuckers! They're coming for your ass!
Yeah, because it's one of those things of like, in our agreements that we made with all of our rights holders, you will get royalties for our premium plays. They get 70% of all of that. 70%. So, like, they're taking in the revenue that we have here. The other 30%, goes to take care of server stuff, some staff stuff, But most of that is going straight back to our artists. If you are not paying for those plays, then having just a chat attribution is the least thing you can do for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a little link. The link, most of the times now, will go straight to the Pretzel page, to that segment, and show you where it is so you can play it yourself. Some of the original ones will go to like a Spotify thing or a Bandcamp link, but most of them are going back into Pretzel. And it's one of those, like, the biggest argument I get is, well, it spams my chat. I'm like, if your chat is so slow that having something post every 3 to 7 minutes is an issue for you, that is not a Pretzel problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate saying it because, like, I am a small streamer myself. Like, I'm used to just, if I do a game on my birthday, it's like 3 friends there with me. And yeah, Pretzel can clog things up. But, like, I have never lurked in a small stream and been like, oh man, that bot's really posting all this song information to these artists. That's such a terrible thing. I don't want to be here. I'm like,
yeah,
nah, I ignore it. Because you know what? If the user chooses to, keep Pretzel out of their vision through the means that Twitch will let you do that as a individual user in a chat, not as a broadcaster, like, what can we do about that? Nothing, really.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that's what you should do as a person in someone's chat, but
my exact analogy to that, one of the people that was giving me shit, first of all, they claimed that, like, the musicians weren't getting paid. And I'm like, okay, my non-existing hair is falling out. And then after that, I said, it's the same thing. If you can't afford to tip the waitress, stay fucking home. Don't go out to eat, because that is part of your privilege of being able to stream on Twitch. You can't just use whatever you want.
Yeah, and there are other services that don't require a chat attribution. Different ones will have things that you can put on stream. Different ones will have things that they want in your panels. Like, if Pretzel Rock is not for you, we understand that. We're sad to see you go. We think that we have the best music out there and the most variety. I'd love to see someone try to compete with us. No, I don't.
For the sake of competition.
Yeah. But, like, if we're not for you, that's fine. Because we're not for everyone. Like, we don't have a huge YouTube variety. Like, there's under 5,000 tracks that are licensed for YouTube right now. And that's just because of how Content ID works. And so, if you are primarily a YouTube streamer, Pretzel Rocks might not be for you unless you really like things that are like synthwave and chiptunes and stuff like that. But you want like emo and punk and polka and all that stuff, you're not going to really find anything. Like, I think on our punk station, we have 1 track that is YouTube safe. So if you go to the station, you're going to hear that same track repeated over and over and over again. So. And
as a final point on that, I feel for the person who does not enjoy majority electronic music, right? Because I will admit there's a massive lacking on other genres of music. And I think, I don't know if it's because it's the ease. Like, I feel like, and this is not shitting on electronic music, it's easy to make listenable electronic music. And people who are really, really good at music, I feel like, can churn out electronic tunes, especially when it's background music, right? Yeah. Like, are you gonna sit in are you gonna take a synthwave record and put it on a player and like sit there and probably not. You might love synthwave to that point, but I'm trying to make a little point here that it's a little bit easier to make background music. Case in point, stream beats, being able to just churn out track after track after track, it's a little bit easier. So I feel for the people that don't enjoy electronic music, we have a little bit easier. I will admit that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, yeah, we used to call this roller skate music, like with my musician friends, because it's a specific beats per minute that you get that's just kind of like that perfect. You could just cat jam to it all day long, and it's just that's all you need. And as long as that doesn't change dramatically throughout the different tracks that you're playing, you're pretty much set. And most of the electronic music is all going to be kind of in that same nice range. So like, and even chill has its own like specific temper to it, and like that's what you want.
Yep.
And so you're going to find tons of that. Like, and that's, I think, one thing that sets us really far apart from these other players is like people get tired of EDM, like, which is one of those things that I thought I was going to. And then I go into streams and like, I know people are listening to Pretzel. I'm like, man, what station is this? I'm like, oh, it's this like hard dance. I'm like, I like hard dance. I like this like crunchy music. Like what's going on with this? But then you get things like yacht rock, and oh my god, it's like the 70s dad music in a station wagon, and I'm just like, oh,
I love
it. Channel. Yeah, that's my channel.
It's really cliche now, but lo-fi is my shit. I love lo-fi so much. I've actually considered some type of lo-fi inspired tattoo of like that YouTube channel that has the girl who's studying something along those lines. Lo-fi is a type of music. I have this is a way deeper of a conversation, but I have a weird relationship with music to where the past couple years I don't listen to anything new. I don't listen to a lot of music. I'm starting to get back into it. But it was podcasts, audiobooks, or driving in silence. When I say driving in silence, I mean literally nothing. Like the air conditioner was my music. And I have no idea what
I can't.
I don't know why that happened. And I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm just now getting to the point where now when I'm cooking, I'll throw on some music. When I'm getting into the shower, I'm putting on some music. Like I'm starting to love music again. I would love to talk about that to a therapist one day. Like figure out what happened that made me stop caring about music, because it was such a massive part of my life for a really long time.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of lean into like witchy stuff. Like it's hard to show, but like I've got a tarot card on my arm, even there's crystals back here and shit. And for me, there's a sense of wonder, whimsy, and magic to music. And I found that like, as I'm cooking, as I'm doing things in my day, like I will start singing songs, whether or not the lyrics have anything to do with what I'm doing or how I'm feeling. But like, I've found that "You Are My Sunshine" is I want to make myself and my cats feel better. Even though those lyrics, when you listen to them and actually get into the other lyrics, it's this weird unrequited love that like the person's gonna have self-harm. It's really weird, but the melody is something that like I found myself kind of latching onto those rhythms because they invoke these moods inside of you. And so like it's one thing I love, like, and you can do that with your games and shit, like putting on the spooky station and playing something like Animal Crossing. It's this weird thing. Like if you have like the like certain epic music, like we made a Vikings playlist, and we did it mostly for the people who are doing Valheim now, which love Valheim.
Do you love Valheim?
Yeah, I'm addicted. So we have this like short little Vikings playlist. I decided to throw it on just to check it out before we actually like tweeted it out to people who requested it. And I'm moderating for my streamer who is doing like Animal Crossing cutesy things. And I'm just like, wow, this became so much more epic now. And so it's really cool. Like, I actually love it when people send us clips of like, hey, I put this music to this game and look at what happened. I'm just like, oh my God, I love this.
I never would have like put those two and two together ever.
Yeah. Like listen to cutesy pop stuff while you're like playing certain like smash and bash shooter game things. Like, heck, I mean, I would, before I worked for Pretzel, yes, I listened to unlicensed music when I would play Overwatch, and I would like sing happy, dumb pop songs while playing Overwatch and getting these kills, and it just changes the whole atmosphere. I love it.
Do you have a history of liking creative sandbox survival games?
Yes.
Have you ever, by chance, played the game Grav?
I have not.
Okay.
Am I going to lose my whole like life to this now?
No, it's I don't even think it's playable anymore. Quick story, it came out, it got super popular. The devs pretty much grabbed all the money and ran and just abandoned the game. Super sad. But I would stay up all night mining resources, and I would just find like 2 to 3 hour drum and bass mixes on SoundCloud, and I would just mine resources for hours at a time. For whatever reason, just electronic music and survival games have always just been like in harmony for me. So totally understand that.
Grad school too, and I'm like writing papers and turning things out. Like I need something with a certain amount of energy to keep everything stimulated and going, and like that high energy. It's why people have workout playlists. Like you need a certain like environment around you to encourage that, and like music is the best way to do it.
Have you ever seen the movie Moneyball?
No.
With Brad Pitt? Fuck. Okay.
I'm really bad with movies. I used to work in a movie theater, and like all I would do was watch the same like Beautiful Mind like 20 times. That's what I did with my life.
Have you ever seen Perks of Being a Wildflower?
I haven't seen it, but I've read the book like 17,000 times. It's one of my favorite books.
So Wallflower. Did I say Wildflower? Sorry, Girthy. I don't watch movies or TV shows, but soundtracks to movies and TV shows fucking get me. So I'm going to post a link to a tweet that I put in chat, and this is just to a song that was in a movie called Moneyball. And it's like an 11-minute track, and it's just one of like the greatest songs. I use it for meditation every once in a while too, so highly recommended. If anybody's seen Moneyball, it's like one of the greatest fucking movies ever.
Yeah, like I'm always a big fan of saying to go out and like any of the movies that kind of like hit you in certain feels, get those soundtracks.
Yes,
like, TV shows. Like I felt this special place of love for Bridgerton because they had Vitamin Strings Quartet, which had all of these like pop songs done to strings, and I'm just like, this brings back so much nostalgia because like in high school, driving my younger sisters around, they were like very conservative Christians, and like I would want to listen to all these different things, and so we would just play this stuff that like we knew the lyrics for it, but like my sister's like, oh, this is really pretty. I'm like, this is safe.
Have you ever
or you can even play those things at toy stores when little kids are around.
Going back to the childhood. Have you ever heard of the band Coheed and Cambria?
Yes.
So they had Vitamin String Quartet did a tribute to one of the Coheed and Cambria albums, and so that's got a special place in my heart too. All right, next up, how can a creator be sure that we got so derailed there, but that's the point of this podcast. How can a creator be sure they won't be DMCA'd? What proof of license can the music creator provide?
Okay. So this is one of those things where you really need to do your due diligence and check out the platforms themselves. What are they going to provide? I don't have like what the pretzel licenses actually do, but there are different types of licenses, and so you need to know what you actually need for whatever you're doing. Because I've had a lot of people like, well, why can't you just play radio? Because we have this ASCAP BMI public performance stuff on Twitch. Doesn't that mean that we can just play radio and be fine? It's like, well, no, the radio stuff is very specific. Radio in itself is, I don't want to say it's kind of fucked up, but it's just really, it's a really interesting history, because apparently what happened was one of the major labels was just like, here's our music, we're just going to give it to you, play it. And so now anyone else who wants to be on the radio had to just give their music to radio too. They couldn't like ask for specific payback from it. And so that sort of set things in motion for radio. And it's just like, hot damn, no wonder musicians are so pissed off about so much stuff, is because like their industry has been in this weird murky water for so long. And so like when it came to the internet and things were new, they could actually start fighting for these rights for themselves.
They've literally been fucked ever since.
Yeah.
Like from the beginning, like they started out getting taken advantage by their managers, and then they started getting taken advantage by the record labels, and then they got fucked by the internet, and now they're still getting fucked by the internet. We gotta cut them some slack.
Yeah, it's one of those things like everyone, like we just went on this big, long, I don't even know how long rant about how important music is to whatever you're doing in life, your emotions, driving, like it plays such a huge part. But like people don't value it. Like there's a joke in our community about like music is a sandwich and such. It's like because it's like, oh, but if I make this and this, then I have like if I buy the sandwich, I have the rights to do whatever I want with it. I can give it to whoever I want. I'm like, no, music's not a sandwich. Like just because you buy a CD, that gives you the right to play that for individual use. It's the same thing as seeing all those FBI warnings on VHS tapes if you are old enough to remember VHS tapes.
Right.
Yeah.
You brought up a really good point, and this is actually one of my main qualms with the standpoint. So because it's like it's a double-edged sword, because people have such an emotional connection to music, their desire for wanting to share it with other people kind of overrides their due diligence of what they should be doing with the music. So like, this is my music. I should be able to play my music on my stream because this is my space. And it's like, okay, I get that. But you have to understand, like, the only reason that you're able to feel the things that you're feeling is because somebody else created something out of nothing and made you feel that way. So you have a little bit of a due diligence to give them the credit that they are due. Just because you pay $10 for Apple Music every month, or just because you bought the CD, it makes you feel like you are entitled to your emotions. But at the core, you're really not, because you didn't write that shit. Somebody else did. Yeah.
It's one of those things that, like, would you go and take a book that you have purchased or gotten from a library and just Xerox all of the pages and give it to whomever you want?
That's no. A perfect example.
You're not going to do it. Like, maybe someone will. And yeah, I know, like, in school, people do that too. There are protections for groups like education put into place. And that's even like with sheet music, they put into like their licensing fees for schools, essentially, that they can have X number of, and churches too, like you have X number of copies that you can make for this stuff. And so that's part of the thing. Is like technically what my high school band did, which was photocopy the original sheet music like over and over again. We weren't supposed to do that.
You just brought up a great point. When is somebody going to get DMCA'd for doing a book reading on stream? Yeah, that one, like, the only book reading that I've participated in, Will Wheaton did a Choose Your Own Adventure one, but he actually, after doing one of them, the publishers got a hold of them and said, hey, we actually like this. Can you do more? And they sent him more books. And so, like, that was a cool thing that happened. I'm like, I want more of this. But, like, essentially, you're creating a book on tape, but you also have a video with it. So, like, that sync comes in. There's all this stuff that comes about. It's like there's a theatrical license, print license. We've talked about mechanical and the master license, like, and then there's sync licenses, which is the big thing that Twitch is arguing. Or not even Twitch has not talked about sync licenses for a very specific reason. They do not have sync licenses for their things. They have that public performance. But this is one of those things where I will direct you to go to that video and watch and see, like, listen to the exact verbiage that Jeremy uses when he's talking about public performance licenses. He talks about public performance to perform music on stream. Mm-hmm. Not play music on stream, perform music on stream. And they do not really discuss with covers whether or not that is okay for you to sing along to a recording. It's not, because that recording's still covered by its own mechanical license. And also, like, there's the composition, the publishing for that too. But, like, they don't really discuss this as far as, like, what you actually can and can't do. They circle around it, and it's really frustrating because people are going to get in trouble. Mm-hmm. Streamers are the ones who are going to feel the blowback from all of this.
And all because, you know, I don't want to say Twitch is doing this on purpose to hurt streamers. They're finding this, they're learning all of this as they go too.
Right.
Like, I want to assume that they have lawyers in there working with them and are helping them, but they're still learning this too. And they're trying to figure out what can they do that is in the best interest of Twitch, which is something they've talked about. Like, there was certain words in there. I trying to find my notes on like what he actually said. But working with the major labels on something that is appropriate for Twitch, meaning what is Twitch getting out of this relationship with the majors?
Right.
And so, like,
at the end of the day, we need Twitch to prosper in order for us to prosper as well. So it's going to be mutually beneficial.
Yeah. And it's one of those things of like, this is something we have a little further down in the notes, but it's like, there was news not that long ago about how Facebook made a deal with the major labels to get everything for their partners and their streamers for Facebook, which I don't remember if that was only for Facebook Gaming or if that was for Facebook Live, so it covered all live streams.
To my knowledge, I thought it was only for Facebook Gaming. I only remember it being in reference to that live streaming part of Facebook.
Yeah, and it was one of those, I think it's that, and then, because they talk about how the music needs to be background, it cannot be the focus type of thing.
Right.
So it's very specific in their contracts what they can and can't do and use for that. YouTube has very specific things, so that's why Content ID matters over there. And honestly, the music industry loves Content ID and YouTube, because up until recently, if you claimed something, it took all of the revenue from that video and gave it back to the rights holders. Now it's split, so the streamer does get some of that money. They don't lose it all. But that's why you don't see much license for YouTube in any of these platforms, because they already have a way to make money on YouTube. They don't want to license it because they're out all of that money.
Mm-hmm. Is there any final points you want to touch on? I know like there was a lot of information packed into how a creator makes sure they won't be DMCA'd. Is there anything like big points you want to highlight before we move on?
I think a big one would be the copyright versus license. So those tend to get thrown around a lot. The license is the actual agreement between the content creator, the platform, whomever. In our case, like for me, it's between Pretzel on behalf of Pretzel users and the rights holders as the artists and their labels and whatnot, and whoever's their acting agents. The copyright is the actual, I own this. So Pretzel does not own any of the songs that are in there, with the small asterisk of, we are in the same parent company as 99 Lives, so therefore, there's some ambiguity there, but technically Pretzel does not own them either. And so when you're looking at music and you're seeing things that like, oh, you want to look for things that are not copyright, you want to look for copyright-free music. That doesn't matter. You're looking for things that are properly licensed. And that's something that like I've been trying to like, I'm one of those like, well, actually, and I correct my friends a lot with those terms. Like, yeah, you want this, and this. Like, you don't want to look for royalty-free music all the time, because royalty-free just means they're not paying the artist.
Right.
And so those are like the terms you need to really focus on, is like, you want properly and correctly licensed music. And that license is going to be a piece of, like, a document. It might not be printed, it might be digital, but it will state exactly what tracks you're looking for or what content you're looking to use, by whom, and what, like, for this purpose, like for streaming on Twitch, for my alerts, for the whatever. What are the terms? Like, how long can you use this? If they decide to revoke access, what's the term for that? Like, you want all of this stuff specified. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking at platforms, Pretzel included, and you want to know, okay, what is this protecting me? Like, what can I use this for? Is sync covered in this? And if it doesn't specifically say anywhere on their terms of service or on their use agreements, like in video games, you'll want to look at what's called the EULA, the end user license agreement. If it doesn't specify exactly how you can use it as a user, ask. Always ask. If you don't like the answer, don't use it. Don't take that risk.
Yep.
Because you're opening yourself up to then be like, well, I know this person was interested in using it. Let's go see if they did. And ding, DMCA'd.
And if you feel like the agreement or the contract isn't specific enough, that's sort of a red flag for you, because you want that stuff to be, again, this is your brand. This is your content. Don't fuck around.
Yeah. Is Pretzel going to show you a copy of our licenses with even a blank one? No. We're not going to show that just because of like proprietary things. But they have people like me to talk you through all this, to reassure you, to like let you know our team is so phenomenal. We have our COO, Tom. He works a lot of the contracts. Our A&R guy, Ryan, is phenomenal. Like, if you want to know why these stations are amazing, Ryan has hand curated all of them. So he has listened to all of the music on Pretzel and said, this goes here, this goes here. So like, he is the reason why all of these sound so good.
Oh, so he's a psychopath.
2
million.
Yeah, he the fact that he can put through these songs so quickly and make these stations happen, and then on top of it, we're like, oh hey, can you make us a playlist of sea shanties? I have it the next afternoon, so we have sea shanties now. If I wanted it,
he is what we call an essential worker.
Yes.
All right. So this next question: does a song that works on one platform cover all of them? And you've been doing a lot of explaining, so I can kind of take the brunt of this one. Feel free to add anything afterwards. So the most important answer to this question is it depends. And I know that people hate that fucking answer, but in something as specific as DMCA, copyright, and content creation, it depends. We kind of live by the phrase, it depends, and you really have to pay attention. So for something like Pretzel Rocks, for Twitch, there is, I think, do you know if Pretzel Rocks installs with a YouTube filter on or off?
It used to be permanently, like it was always on, but now because most of our songs are not YouTube safe, it is off.
Okay.
But when you sign up and you have the player open, there's a nice box that says, you are not YouTube safe. Do you want to turn this on?
Yes.
We were going to make it bright red, but then it's like most people are going to see bright red and just click it. And we don't want them to miss out on all the amazing music that's not YouTube safe if they're not doing it.
Right,
like,
right.
The number one thing I see, or not the number one, but one of the big things I see in tweets is like, why did my VOD get muted? I have YouTube safe. I'm like, did you put it on YouTube at all? No, take YouTube safe off. That has nothing to do with your VOD mute.
Yep.
Like, it's only like YouTube safe means YouTube. Twitch is different. I had to explain to people that Twitch is owned by a different company. They are a separate platform.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
So again, for Pretzel Rocks, for instance, oh my God. You all right out there?
Someone fall off a ladder and break a rib.
How fat is that doink? So for Pretzel, you have a setting that allows you to be safe for when you are streaming on Twitch. That covers when you are live and the VODs after the fact. There is a option that you can switch on where you are only playing music that is YouTube safe. So you know that when you export your VODs to YouTube, you're covered there as well. For all of the other services that I've looked at, they are very specific on when and where you can use their content. So this is something as a streamer that you want to keep in mind. Are you somebody that cares about your VODs being saved on Twitch? Are you somebody that cares about exporting your VODs to YouTube? Do you want to be able to take highlights and clips from your stream and post them to other platforms? Yeah. These are the things that come into play. And now, we haven't even talked about, I'm not really worried about licensing for music on TikTok because that is so ungoverned right now.
Well, TikTok, it's actually, I believe they have an agreement with the majors, and that's why there's so much music on TikTok that you can use.
Yep.
And it's just one of those things so if you are a streamer and you want to put your clips out there, put them on TikTok. Mm-hmm. Don't put them on Instagram. Don't put them on Twitter. We just saw the whole thing with Little Siha and Lexi, who just got suspended for a couple weeks because of their Just Dance videos from having clips.
Yep.
Don't do it. One of my friends, he actually posted things and it looked like Sony was going after people on Twitter. So that was the big thing there. Yeah. Which that's one thing I do want to also say too, is we talk about the music industry as this big, ubiquitous, large, single entity. It's not.
Yeah.
There are so many groups out there. And the fact, like when I said you can get DMCA'd on publishing and on the mechanical, those are separate groups. Those are separate people. They have different agendas and they will have different ways of tackling DMCA. So like we have seen small little tests of waters of DMCA from certain groups so far. We have not seen them all. I do not believe that we are through with seeing DMCA strikes.
Imagine the companies that haven't even made themselves known yet. Like they're just building tools in the background, collecting data, building cases on people. This is why what I do for TikTok is I will make a TikTok and then I will save it without music. And then I will save it with music so that if I want to take that content and post it to another platform, I can do that safely. Because there's been times, I've especially in the streamer community, people create TikToks that are following trends and copyrighted music that is only licensed for TikTok. They post it over to Twitter. It gets all this engagement. And then what do you know? Down the road, somebody comes by and slaps you with a DMCA and your Twitter is gone for a short amount of time or permanently.
Yeah. And most likely, if they take one of your, like say I take one of your TikTok videos and put it on my Twitter, I'm the one who's going to get my account suspended.
Yep.
Not you. I'm the one who's going to get my account suspended. And so like I actually had someone like get into a long argument with me about it. So like, but I'm just sharing, like why would they allow you to share things? Like why does YouTube have a share button? Why does TikTok have a share button? If you can just be like, what's the whole point of the internet then? I'm like, well, it's complicated. Like you really just have to like, Noah Downs, my lawyer friend, he always talks about it's all about risk assessment, like or mitigation. Like what are you actually willing to risk? And so if I put up your TikTok, do I think that the music you have used, do I think that is safe? Do I think that you yourself, Knackers, are going to come and say, hey, you used this in a tweet? A tweet itself is its own unique content. Therefore, you are using my content to make your content. DMCA take you down too. Like I have to like take that risk. Right.
And because to us, even people that grew up with Twitter in its infancy, we don't think about that when we tweet or we retweet, right? We're just like, oh, this is funny, retweet, and that is just the end of it.
Memes are going to be like, it's one of those things that I love. Like I always said I was never big into memes, and now like I'm part of Twitch and like I'm starting to get used to them and notice certain ones. But it's like memes can screw you over super hard because all it takes is for one of them to be like, nah, this is not how we do it. And DMCA everyone who's used that meme.
I am surprised that Disney did not cut down half of the internet for Grogu memes and stuff that went around. Yeah. I mean, like they got really strict on re-uploads on Twitter and people trying to make physical items and sell them. But as far as like the memes and stuff that went around, again, we kind of dabble in the conversation of, well, it's a little bit of advertisement. Like I'm sure Disney sees everybody sharing Grogu and goes, oh, that's some good shit.
Yeah. Well, and there's also the discussion of, is this transformative? Is it a parody? Is it free use?
Yep.
And to all of that, my answer is always the same. I am not a judge. A judge is the one who decides free use. I can't decide if something's transformative. That's why, like, even for me, seeing like news, talk show, political streams, I get nervous when you are like even reaction streams where you're watching YouTube videos. You don't own that YouTube content. You don't necessarily have the right to use that in your Twitch stream to react to it. But is it then considered journalism transformative if you are then commenting over it? Some say yes. To me, it's such a gray area. That's why I don't want to touch it myself. But it's like, you really, if you're going to go down that route, you really should do like an online course in just digital journalism stuff, just to like prepare yourself, do the proper like research on it to make sure that you know your ass is covered.
The word parody, I feel like, is such a gray area.
Yeah.
Especially on Twitch. So when I see the defense that it is parody, it makes me nervous because we have no history of how things have played out in court. And if we do, they're just not talked about a lot.
Yeah.
And so when I see that use that as a defense, my response is always the same. Are you willing to bet your entire channel on it? Are you?
Yeah.
If not, then you should probably think otherwise.
Yeah. Like everything I've learned about parody so far is like most people who are professionals who do parodies for a living get permissions and licenses ahead of time to use specific parts of it. And also parody is supposed to be considered like, is it parodying the actual content itself? If that's what's considered a parody, instead of just like, oh, I'm using your under like the background music, the tunes, the melody to create my own lyrics on it. Is that actually technically a parody? That's gray area. I don't have the answer for that.
Yep, me either. In the interest of time, because we're on Twitch and we're talking about Twitch, do you want to skip over the Facebook related stuff?
Yeah.
Is there anything within there that you feel is super important that you want to highlight?
I think it's the big question of Amazon owns Twitch. Why can't we just use Amazon Music, all this stuff? To which the big answer is Amazon Music is a digital service provider. They are pretty much exactly like Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, even like Pretzel. They are just providing you a platform to listen to the music. You are not buying a license. You are not obtaining any kind of license in Amazon Music to use it in any kind of broadcast performance. To Pretzel, you are. I will say, yes, Pretzel, you are getting the licenses for that. We have it. Amazon Music does not have the licenses to have you rebroadcast the music, essentially, and then put it to video, which is the big thing. Putting music to video is sync. You need a sync license for that.
Oh, I didn't know that was one of the like defining parts of the sync license. Okay.
It comes, I believe, from the days of like black and white movies when they would have like the player pianos. So syncing that up to it.
No shit.
That's what I was told. Yeah. If I am wrong, someone can correct me, but that was what I was told. I'm like, that is super cool.
If you are, we're just going to lie and say that you aren't because that's classic and cool as fuck.
Yeah. And that tells you too, like music, copyright law, these terms, these things are old. They have been around for a while. They have not changed much. DMCA came out in what, 1998?
Yep.
It hasn't changed. The verbiage in it has not changed once since. It is currently under review. I don't know if that review process is still happening, but like the idea is not to get rid of the DMCA. The idea is to get some sort of unionized group of streamers to have our own lobby to say, hey, this is what we need.
Mm-hmm.
Like we need to have our voice there. Streaming is becoming such a huge part of our culture. We need representations of streamers to protect ourselves.
Right.
And that hasn't happened yet. Like, yes, when copyright came up, my friend who was part of the A2IM, it's Association of Independent Music. That's all I can really remember off the top of my head. But she was on that, and she went and spoke in front of Congress on behalf of A2IM, but also for streamers to be like, here's what we know of, like what I know of Twitch. This is what their interests are. Like, we need that happening. Yeah. And the fact that this wasn't like big Twitch news, wasn't big YouTube news. Like, hey, like content creators, this is your livelihood. If you want it to like go the way you need it to go to make a living, you need to fight for this.
Yep.
And you need to get educated on how to fight it.
It is also our responsibility to educate the uneducated about it too. Yeah. We can't just expect them to know it.
Yeah.
2 quick questions. 1, is that a real brick wall?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
This is why I don't have windows, because there's another building right next door. Like I live in a tiny village in the downtown area, and I have one window in my entire apartment.
Okay, gotcha. Question number 2, that little what looks like space art piece that is in the corner of your camera. Can I see that?
This is from I don't have like the artist on it, but this is from my monthly Witch subscription box that I get called Witch Casket UK.
I didn't realize that there was a person in the I'm sorry, go ahead.
And so every month you get this nice box with lots of little trinkets. There's always like a tea in there. There's some sort of goodie this pin holder, this card holder that all came from different ones. I have a nice hat that says the craft on it.
Nice.
Over there, I have a little wax candle melter thing that looks like a cauldron. You get all that stuff, and you get little like enamel pins every month. Not sponsored, but please sponsor me. I love you guys. So yeah, I love Witch Cat. Yeah, I got my decorating style from my late grandmother, which is like tchotchkes everywhere.
Okay.
So that's why there's like stuff like I've got my birds. I have like probably 15 vintage cameras that are all like mid-century cameras that I have everywhere. Like,
thought that was a camera.
Yeah, there's stuff all over. Up on my wall up here is like a different collage of art that I love and embroidery that I've done. Like this is. Yeah,
I noticed. I just
stuff.
saw the design and the colors, and I immediately got intrigued.
Yeah.
So one of the next big points we want to cover is ironically, out of nowhere, Twitch held a live stream pretty much updating the community on DMCA, what was happening, what Twitch's plans were for the next 4 quarters, and there was some really, really good stuff. I'm glad that you had a chance to go over it because I did not. So I'm leaning on you heavy for this part. I've got the footnotes, but it was hosted by DJ Wheat and then Jeremy, who is the head of creative
something, yeah.
Fuck, I had memorized it before we went live, and now it's gone. Somebody important over at Twitch.
He's like a project manager, director typing person. Manages their Tiger team, which is a term we own.
Tiger team, that's right. So they spent a good amount of time going over what tools were available now and what they were going to be coming out with in the future. If you want to touch on that.
Yeah. So a big thing that they talked about was how previously the only way you knew if you had gotten any sort of DMCA communications of any kind was via an email, which that was linked to whatever email you have your Twitch accounts associated with, which I don't know about y'all, but I have about 20 different emails somewhere and our email accounts. And so for me, I put them all into the same little inbox because I want to actually have my stuff. Not everyone does this. So things get lost.
Yep.
People were getting DMCA strikes and not knowing it. And so they are now having this as an insight notification. So when you get those little things that says like so-and-so gifted you a sub or your sub expired, it's going to be in that. Eventually they'll have more spots for that in your creator inbox and on your channel. They're going to give you ways to track any claims that you have or any strikes. And that will be a panel in the video producer. So you go to like your dashboard, then content, video producer, and it should be all in there somewhere. And this will like tell you how many strikes you have, which we will probably start seeing tweets of people saying, I have X number of strikes.
Mm-hmm.
So this comes back to Twitch. How many strikes can we have before you need to ban people?
Right.
And if we know that you are tracking strikes, the rights holders know that you are tracking strikes. If you are not banning people, or if you are not banning people equally across the board, we are going to know. And that's something that's like going to it's going to stir shit up because who's going to get a 2-day suspension? Who's going to get a 1 month? Who's just going to be permanently gone?
Yep.
Is Twitch going to play favorites based on numbers and money?
Right. How large is the record label that is coming after you? Are they a small little 2-man operation, or is this like a massive company like Sony that is coming after you that's going to have a huge play in it as well?
Yeah. And again, they didn't clarify how many takedown notices, because remember, takedown notices is different than a strike. How many takedown notices do you need to earn one strike? We don't know that information, and that's something that I hope Twitch will give to us at some point. I tend not to ask questions during these town halls because they're just massive and there's so much going on. And I don't want to say they basically have their script, but they have their script and then they take the questions that are going to fit into that script, it feels like, which is fine. They will ask some other things, which is great, and they will pull stuff up from chat. It really does happen, but some of the things that I would want to ask are probably going to take a lot longer than they're going to want to answer on screen for me.
Right. And as informed as they are, they're probably not specialists in this particular field. And it's probably good that they are not answering every single question because they probably aren't well equipped. Like DJ Wheat is not a music copyright god. And I doubt that the other gentleman is either.
Yeah. DJ Wheat doesn't necessarily know like what's going to cause issues and that, because he even said that he's got a strike. He's found measures to prevent that. Oh, he uses pretzel now.
It's DJ Wheat. By the way, I love you, DJ Wheat.
But yeah, it's just one of those things of like, there's still information they need to get. And yes, they should be checking all of this over with their lawyers because we want to make sure we're actually getting accurate information out all the time. And so that's why, like, even for me, like if I don't know the answer, I will try to give the best of my knowledge and then also explain with the caveat, like, this is something I need to look into. I will ask around. Like, I mean, I just had someone ask me if their VOD is muted, can they not make clips anymore? I'm like, that's a good question. I don't know. I go over and ask some Twitch staff that I know because Wrenches, I love you. You are so prominent in chats, and the fact that I've gotten to know you over the years, like I can actually just DM some people and be like, hey, does this happen?
Yes.
And so, yeah, if your VOD is muted, you cannot create clips from it. If you had created a clip, it will be deleted.
Interesting. I had wondered about that, but I had never confirmed it. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a lot of what they're doing now. So we don't know what it means for repeat offenders. There's this issue of Twitch forgiving strikes and what that actually means too. So like, is that if they're able to prove that, yes, you do have the licenses. So is it going to be a similar appeal to how they do mutes now? Like we have songs on Pretzel that get muted through Audible Magic because Audible Magic is its own service. People register on that. We don't have access to that. So this is all done through Twitch and Audible Magic. If people appeal and that gets released, like, is the process going to be similar? Like, how are they going to actually decide what's forgiven, what's not? Like, is it just if you appeal at all, it's going to be that strikes removed? Because they want to make it easier to counterclaim to state that you actually have the rights to that. They're going to give you access to see the VODs and whatnot that has the content that has been claimed. So anything that's considered allegedly infringing. So we can't say yes or no, it is. It's just allegedly infringing. You're going to be able to review that and make counterclaims. However, are they going to then provide streamers with the knowledge that if you counterclaim, you are opening yourself up to a lawsuit?
Right.
Because that's the next step, basically, is they say, hey, don't use this. You say, no, I have the right. They still believe that you don't have the right to do it. They will take you to court.
Yeah. I also wonder at what point they will go down the same road as YouTube, where YouTube actually will force you to take like a copyright mini class in order to go back to having your account be normal again, which I thought was, I actually, before I got really, I've always been serious about copyrighted music on stream. I would say for the past maybe 3 to 4 years, I've been really serious about it. But I was still watching like YouTube videos on stream every once in a while. And we had gotten onto like an Asian street food YouTube video kick where we were just watching all these videos from people getting Asian street food. And then we found this insane, not the Omaru rice, but it was like tornado egg volcano dishes or something where you crack these eggs into a super hot pan and then you take chopsticks and you twist it and it turns into like a little mountain of egg. Oh God. And I got a copyright strike for that video, and I actually had to go through, watch this video, take a quiz, and everything was fine. But I'm actually wondering if Twitch will go down that road as well.
I think is actually a great way, because then you get to cover the whole, we are providing you with education on this.
Yes.
And you know, if Twitch doesn't want to do this themselves, they can offload it to such organizations like Streamer Square, who's very equipped to do these kind of things.
Yep. Oh yeah. And
so, yeah.
I don't know why, but it feels like Twitch's solution to that is abstinence instead of using resources to educate the end user. They're kind of like, good luck, dude.
Yeah. They're like, oh, we deleted that for you, which, yes, if you get a notification, they have to remove the content. But then it perpetuates this myth that if you delete your VODs and clips, you are safe.
Yep.
You are not. Just because you deleted the evidence doesn't mean what you did was not illegal.
Right. And like you said, there are people out there logging and taking notes and making sure that this stuff is documented.
Yeah. Which I can't remember if that was in the tweet that Noah put out about how there's...
I just pulled that up.
Yeah. About how, like, they can do... Like, there actually are live DMCAs happening, and they have happened for a while. We don't see them for music very much. We do see them for, like, sporting events. FIFA likes to do them, from what I'm told.
MMA.
You want to play soccer? Yeah. You want to do MMA? Like, CNN did them for a lot of the things for, like, the debates and stuff. They're like, haha, no, clutch. And they shut down all these political streamers for a while. Like, you have to be really careful. Heck, the Square Enix thing that's going on, that I think it was happening earlier today, they sent out a list of, here are the exact times that you should mute your co-stream of it because these will DMCA you.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you want to go through and mute while you're watching and talking? Which, if you're going to co-stream anyways, turn the audio off because you never know. Like, there's the whole, God, I don't remember what even awards announcement it was, but they had Metallica of all bands playing, and they switched the music.
That was hilarious to me. That was absolutely hilarious.
It's just like, but you can get DMCA'd on video content as well. However, Twitch, the environment that we're living in, you're much less likely to be DMCA'd for video content, especially with co-streaming, because that's something that they encourage, especially if you're co-streaming actual Twitch events. Granted, then you run into the issues of them playing out in the middle of their events, which is fun, but
good times navigating around that.
Yeah.
I want to read.
Co-stream.
Be careful. I want to read Noah's tweets because I think they're super important. Twitch is rolling out updates related to the mass DMCAs we've seen over the last few years. Importantly, this includes the ability for creators to track how many strikes they have on their channel and to receive DMCA notifications on Twitch itself. There's much more to do. Twitch auto deletes DMCA'd content and usually can't reinstate it if the creator counters the DMCA. This is a problem because per the DMCA, Twitch must reinstate content within 2 weeks of the counter, unless they receive word that the lawsuit is filed by the claiming property. Also, with the content removed completely, as opposed to disabled publicly, the creator can't see if the content was actually infringing. This hamstrings their ability to file a counter. Note, Twitter has the same issue. Twitch says this in particular will be addressed by Q4.
Yeah, this is something where they did talk about how, like, you should be able to start viewing the content that is unpublished and whatnot, and whatever has received some sort of strike on it. But again, like, this stuff isn't happening immediately. It's stuff that's going to be coming. There's a lot of issues of when Twitch deletes VODs and clips and stuff. Is it just getting rid of evidence? Like, what's the legality of all this? Because yes, in the law, it does state that, like, they must reinstate content due to if the counterclaim proves to be in good faith and valid. Like, this is part of it. They have to do it. And that was one of the things where, like, I couldn't remember if it was within 10 days. Like, there's a time period of when they're supposed to be doing these things. Even it's still kind of ambiguous, at least as far as my understanding of it. Yeah, that's all that's even detailed in my big long article.
Streamermusic.com.
Yeah, it's worth going through and skimming, like, just to understand how this whole process works, because it's complicated. It's really complicated. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the music industry wants Twitch to go the way of Content ID, how YouTube did. Thankfully, I don't think that's a possibility that they can even do.
Right, because I know from hearing Devin Nash talk about this, YouTube spent years and tens of millions of dollars building that resource for YouTube specifically. And I doubt they're just going to hand that over to Twitch and say, well, yeah, have some fun with it. Twitch is going to have to pay out of pocket to get that same type of solution enabled for themselves.
And they thought they had this solution in Soundtrack, which they didn't even discuss Soundtrack until their Q&A, which was interesting.
That tells a story.
They're not promoting it as much, which is interesting. They did mention how they're getting more playlists and all these things, which is, great. Do these things. But then when the number one thing that you see with Twitch Soundtrack is, why is my VOD getting muted while using Twitch Soundtrack? You have a major issue because the music's not even supposed to be going to the VOD. No one knows how to use your player.
Yep. And again, I try not to shit on Twitch too much without providing constructive criticism, but this is just another fantastic example of Twitch just throwing something out in the wild because they think it's going to solve the problem, but without educating the end users on how it's supposed to be used, they're just creating more and more confusion. And they had an amazing opportunity to create a good resource for content creators. Not only did they provide a pretty shit product as far as like UI and usability, they decided to screw the artists on the back end of it as well. Instead of doing their due diligence to provide for the people that are creating music, they're like, we'll just, we'll give them little to nothing as far as royalties go. And that kind of made me really sad.
Yeah, there's been that I've seen, there's been no public talk of royalties. There's no public talk of sync licenses on this. And that's where we're going to start seeing big issues. Like, what Twitch does is it puts this little overlay on your video to say like who's playing. And I believe if that artist is live on Twitch, because they're wanting to also promote artists on Twitch, it would send you a little link of saying, here's their stream. Like, you can go follow them and such. But from what I was told too, is if you're not logged into Twitch, that overlay doesn't show up apparently.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's an extension thing. Like, I'm like, I can't confirm that's true, but this is what someone told me. It's like, oh, I logged out. I don't see it anymore. I'm like, well, that's one way around this.
Oh, man.
If that's false, that's on me. That's just a rumor that I heard.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. And it's one of those things where, like, I go back and forth of some people, yes, having that overlay it's nice because it does free up your chat. You don't have that. People can get access. I don't know how it works on mobile. That's another issue. But like overlay space, extension space, those are all like prime real estate for streamers. And if you're not even going to do simple things like give us native captions, why are you then doing this instead? Like, there are so many better things you could be putting on the overlay than just, hey, here's a shout out to who's playing right now.
If this is just something that I just thought of recently while we've been talking. If somebody is using Twitch Soundtrack, the advertisement that you see going into a stream could very much well be a link to Twitch Soundtrack, the artist that's playing, or something pointing back just to give a little bit more love to them instead of fucking Coke Gaming.
Yeah. I mean, heck, give that ad revenue to the artist then. Those 3 pennies.
Right? Please, God.
Yeah. It's just, there's so many simple little things that they could be doing. And I will say, one of the things that Twitch did with Soundtrack that has been a good improvement for streaming itself is because of how they want you to use Soundtrack and not have it actually go to the VOD. That meant OBS then needed to make it easier to decide which audio tracks you're having go where. And I think that's a big improvement because you need to have that kind of control when you're doing your own streaming and video recording and whatnot. Like, because I even tell people, like, if you don't want to deal, like, if you're upset that Pretzel has so few YouTube safe tracks, then put Pretzel in a different audio channel where it's not going to your, like, recording on your PC, and then put in different music for YouTube.
Yep.
Is it extra work? Yeah, but, like, hopefully you can afford a YouTube editor who will do that for you. Or you have a mod who's cool enough to not work for pay, which is another gripe of mine that is a whole other show.
You said it nicely. I'm going to say it with a little bit more acid. If it's too much work for you, too fucking bad. You are so goddamn privileged to be able to play video games online and make money off it. Too fucking bad. Go buy a subscription service. Eat my ass.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, and it's certain things of like, okay, we don't have our song requests currently. We did have song requests through an extension. We are working to get that back. We had to take it down because all of our new catalog was on a completely different backend, so it didn't even connect anymore. Getting things approved on Twitch for extensions, I don't want to say it's up in the air right now, but it's just one of those, they took a long break for holidays. Even, I want to say even Tiltify or someone else, like a charity, took their extension down just because like getting your extension updated was a whole other process. Like it basically was starting from scratch again. It's like Twitch extensions are something that are cool. I think Twitch is still deciding how they want to deal with extensions, especially because so many extensions are making money.
Sure.
And they want to find a way to take their cut of that. But like we had a song request thing that like allowed you then to earn some kickback for that. And so I think that was with the extension, streamers then got the 70%. Artists got 14% of that song request. Pretzel took 6%.
Okay.
And so with enough song requests, you could pay for your monthly subscription, no problem.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's always kind of something. I mean, this is a whole nother conversation, but to me, the one thing that I would like to see improved is Twitch is a live streaming platform to where like the core existence of Twitch is a live show. And then things like extensions and profiles, they're all just like afterthoughts where they don't get a lot of love. Yeah. Like they're introduced with good intentions and they're good ideas, but like the execution of them is always so lackluster. And then people just end up not using them because it's kind of like whatever. Like if I had to guess what the number one most used Twitch extension is, I would say probably closed captions. Yeah. I would assume that the amount of extensions that are monetizable pale in comparison to like free extensions like closed captions or like when we can have like avatars on stream and stuff like that. Yeah. Which is sad because there are so many fantastic ideas for extensions on Twitch, but because it's such an afterthought and they're clunky and you can only have a certain amount of them at a time, it kind of makes it really messy. Yeah.
They only have like 2 that you can have on screen, and then they have the ones you can put in your panels. And I think the only extension that truly made money has been the soundboard one.
Yeah.
And even that, it's like, how much money is that dude actually making? Like, he probably made a good little bit at the beginning, but like, is he still getting that timeout for bits? Is another one, like, maybe, but maybe not.
Yeah.
Like,
it's funny once, and then after that's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And most people now, if they're using sound alerts, they're going to use the ones that are built out through Streamlabs or Stream Elements.
Right.
So they're getting the money back. They're getting the money now. Yeah. It's not the individuals.
The money's going somewhere.
Yeah.
We touched on the paying for your own licenses as a streamer and how much that could possibly cost. So I'm gonna skip over that, and we can jump into the big myths of DMCAs, which is I don't want to skim over them, but I want to be mindful of your time, and I want to be mindful of the audience time as well. We probably have 5 or 6 Q&A questions to go through as well. So first one, which is a very, very important one. I was DMCA'd because I received a mute. Would you like to go into detail about what mutes actually mean on Twitch?
Yeah. So this is probably like, I actually got accused for being a bot because I have recited this so many times to people. I have it kind of memorized, and I guess sometimes I do just copy pasta the response for this. Mutes are not DMCA strikes. They are not DMCA strikes. They are not even DMCA takedown notices. Mutes happen on Twitch because a song is registered in Audible Magic, the third-party system that Twitch has hired to do their content ID and their content management system. And so the artist, the rights holders, has marked, don't allow. And so therefore, when it gets picked up and detected on Twitch, it mutes. This is one of those things that when we talked about like who can issue a takedown notice, it can only be the rights holders themselves or an actual agent that can speak on their behalf, like a label or such, someone who actually has the legal right to do this stuff. Twitch nor Audible Magic have this right. They cannot issue you a DMCA. When you receive a DMCA strike from Twitch, you are not receiving a DMCA takedown notice from Twitch. You are receiving basically, they're just telling you, hey, we received a takedown notice on behalf of you. So that's how it all goes down. You can appeal these things. It's all automatic. Not all music is in Audible Magic. So not everything that you don't have licenses for is going to mute. So say I'm a big label and I decided to pull every single piece that the Red Hot Chili Peppers have ever done. So that means, yeah, you can play them and they won't mute. That doesn't mean that it's not illegal to use them. Like, you still can get DMCA'd.
Right. Platform specific and claim specific.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, like, Audible Magic manages things for more than just Twitch. They're not just a Twitch specific thing. YouTube has their very own platform specific. So that's the nice thing about YouTube. It's very like, we know if it's not supposed to be on YouTube, but they have their thing, they deal with it. Audible Magic, they considered it a preemptive safeguard to kind of be like, oh, this is maybe problematic. So yeah, if you're getting a bunch of mutes, maybe you should look into what you're using. But again, if I was a record label, I maybe wouldn't put my stuff in Audible Magic. That way I would have evidence on the VOD that what you're doing is illegal. That's what I would do personally.
Yeah.
They call me lawful good, but I don't know that I'm lawful good. I'm lawful evil in that way. People
want money. That is the end of the story.
Like, they want evidence to do things. So, like, not everything's going to flag. Things that are in Pretzel will flag just because our rights holders have stuff there for other platforms. Just because, and some of them too, like, if I was an artist, maybe I would have it on there and be like, I'm only going to release them if they're from Pretzel users because I want people to use it properly where I'm getting royalties. So that way you're not just taking the YouTube video of my music and playing it where I'm not going to, well, I get ad royalties there, but whatever. Like, you're actually getting the proper money from this. Or you're not just taking it from a CD that you have that can't track the plays. Like, we tell all of our artists, here's how many plays you've had this month. Here's how many of them were premium. Here's your royalties. Like, we give them all that data. It's really cool.
Is Audible Magic the sole, what would you call them? Claimer?
For mutes?
Yeah.
We're the only one that can do mutes. Yeah.
For Twitch.
For Twitch, yeah.
Okay.
They're the only company that they've hired for this.
Have you heard of I believe, is it a French company that is writing the live DMCA currently? Like, have you heard of other companies that are getting on board to do different types of claims?
There's I believe a French one. There's a Chinese one that I've heard of.
Okay.
That essentially they scan through all this content to try to to flag what's going on and notify users of these things.
By the way, speaking of, stop Asian hate, you fucking racist pussies. I can't believe what I'm fucking reading on social media. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
If you're racist, I'm going to punch you in the fucking mouth. Okay, that's all I had to say about that. All right, moving on to the next big myths. If I delete the VOD, I'll be safe from DMCA.
No.
That's
just a no.
Yep, hard no.
It's one of those things of like, oh, I mean, I stole this car, but instead, like, you can't catch me on it because I set it on fire. Well, you still stole the car. Like,
you actually bring up a great point. I always wonder, like, if I'm getting pulled over and I'm super close to my house, if I pull in the garage and shut the door and then run inside, can they still arrest me? That's what I think about DMCAs of people deleting VODs.
What's one of those things, like, do they have a warrant for your house at that point No, but can they get that warrant? That warrant is then the DMCA that they issued. It'd be like, I'm searching. Do you actually have the rights for this?
Yep. And then what happens when they get tipped off about one particular piece of content, and then they do a thorough scan of all of your content and find all the other goodies?
This is one of those things that I have to rant about for a while. There are so many streamers out there, and ones that I love and adore and look up to, who are out there on Twitter saying, I deleted the VODs. Ha ha ha. Fuck you, DMCA. And I'm just like, you're just drawing attention to yourself. Mm-hmm. We don't know what what these organizations are doing, how they're capturing, if they're going to do a targeted attack, if they're going to do just a mass sweep with their software, just anyone who's doing it. Are they going to focus on 7 really big streamers because maybe it's going to take really big streamers getting knocked down to actually have people do this and have Twitch, play ball with them? We don't know what's going to happen with all this. So why the hell would you put a target on yourself and risk this?
We have had 3 ever since I have been a streamer. In the past, well, I would say not ever since. So in the past 3 or 4 years, we have had 3 major DMCA waves and scares to where it swoops in, it fucks everybody in the butt, everybody gets scared, they chill out for a couple months, and then they just go right back to doing whatever the hell they want. And for whatever reason, people find reasons to try and get around it instead of just accepting that this is the fucking world that we live in and you need to accept it. And again, with me trying to be nice on social media, when I see people give bad advice like, hey, use this new OBS feature to play music live but not have it saved in your VODs, I get angry and I go into attack mode because you're giving people advice that could potentially fuck them over and could erase them from Twitch, from YouTube. So I get really passionate about it. And I guess after the third massive wave, to still see people go back to playing copyrighted music on stream, encouraging people to use different ways of playing music live without saving it, just it drives me insane. Yeah,
it's gotten to the point where I think it really is going to take people losing their livelihoods, permanently losing their livelihoods, not getting just I'm DMCA banned for 3 weeks from Twitch. It's scary what it's going to take. Is it going to take someone actually filing a counter, getting a lawsuit issued to them, having those fines, which can go up to $150,000 per instance? So that means every single track that you play, if that same rights holder owns it, they can get you for all of those. And if they also own the publishing, they can get you there. If someone else owns it, they can just tag in on that. Do you really want to risk this? So many people are pushing to become full-time streamers. They've quit their jobs. We're living in a pandemic where things are already precarious. I'm legitimately nervous for some of these people. And especially when I see marginalized streamers doing this, I'm just you already have everything stacked against you. Mm-hmm. You're doing this. If you get caught with this, it's just here's one less person in the streaming world that we need to have here. Right. Let the assholes get caught. I'm fine with that. Let the TERFs, let the white supremacists, let those bro boys who send people out to go attack women, let them get caught and banned. I'm fine with that.
Fuck them off.
Yeah. But don't attack these sweet, loving people who are just trying to live their lives and to actually build a career for themselves and a livelihood. One of the dudes I mod for, he's a father of 2, and he got his house from streaming. He was able to pay for this. I'm why would you he doesn't? He's a co-founder of Pretzel. He would never risk this, but it's he gets it. I'm just this is your livelihood. I don't know about y'all. I have this big, robust background. I have a bachelor's degree in essentially miscellaneous studies. I have I'm getting a master's in anthropology. I have things to fall back on. I've got other skills. We have people who went straight from high school to streaming, or even straight from their bachelor's degree to streaming, who don't have job experience otherwise, I really do question, like, where are you going from here? Like, when streaming doesn't pan out anymore, what career options are there for you? You have to have that kind of like plan B going. If you're going to get DMCA, like, where do you go?
Just to put that in perspective, so let's say you get an average of a $100,000 fine, right? After Twitch takes their cut, that is 40,000 subs worth of revenue just to pay that fine for that one infringement. And if you were to put that into like average streamer terms, so I think on average I'm like anywhere from 90 to 140 subs a month. That is 200 months of 200 subs a month worth of revenue just to pay that one fine. So for somebody like Summit, XQC, Dr. Disrespect, RIP, Dr. Disrespect, that is a month worth of revenue. But for everyday Joes like us, it's going to topple you over.
Yeah. Most streamers aren't going to go out and get a platform contract with Twitch. They're not going to get that nice exclusivity contract that says, hey, we're going to pay you regardless as long as you hit your hours, and we're going to like make sure that you're taken care of for the next however many years. Mm-hmm. You're just not going to get it.
Nope.
And the people who are getting those already have a big enough source of income that they have made it onto Twitch's radar. They've got not just one whale coming in their chat and blowing things up. They've got a whole like pod coming in there and doing shit. Like it's one of those things that's like, I feel like a parent and all of Twitch is my children. And it's just like, I can't send you all to timeout. I can't ground you all, but
I will spank you.
Yeah. It's like, hot damn, I'm so disappointed right now because like we have told you time and time again. And it's one of those things like, I hate that I don't have the reach that I need to actually hit these people. Like two of the streamers who I love who were doing some of these, heck, three I can think of off the top of my head, were doing these like DJ nights where they're playing things that they don't have the license to, and they're just going to delete the VODs. I'm just like, I don't have that relationship with you to do this. Like, I can't just walk up to you and get into your DM and say, hey, that's not okay. I'm really worried about your livelihood. And like, it feels shitty to be that friend who's like, I'm constantly worried for you.
It really does. Yeah.
Like, I'm happy that enough of my friends know and love me and trust me that like they have all switched to either Pretzel or some other appropriately licensed music. I want them all to be on Pretzel because I love it, and then I can help them when they have issues. But like, I think that's why half my friends moved over to Pretzel, because they know I'll do support for them.
That support, yeah. If I were to ask my friends on a scale from 0 to 10, how annoyed with me are they about me asking about their backups and their two-factor authentication?
Don't ask me.
Rini,
I had the same passwords from high school.
No! You are banned from the podcast. You can't tell me that now. Jesus Christ. All right, we're going to pretend that didn't happen. We're going to move on. If I only use under 30 seconds, it's still fair use.
Oh, as I said before, only a judge can decide fair use. And, well, I like my clothes. These are not robes. I do not have a gavel. I cannot decide what is fair use. And it's not a fair use. Is not a defense. It's something that they decide after the fact. So, like, you're already in court at that point. For them to decide it's fair use, you're already in court. Which I think I have it in my saved files. I don't think I linked it. Maybe see if I can pull up. Measuring fair use. There's 4 factors. The 4 things that the judge will consider are the purpose and character of your use, the nature of the copyrighted work, the amount and sustainability of the portion taken, and the effect of use upon the potential market. So those are 4 things that they're going to look into those. So like, yeah, if you're only using 15 seconds, could it, but no, like we just had a streamer, Lady Devon, who got DMCA'd and taken down because she had that remix of Making Baking Pancakes from Cartoon Network, but it had New York on the end. And that little snippet of New York on the end got her DMCA'd 5 seconds of a song.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Apparently it was that got caught. Like Cartoon Network didn't send out the DMCAs. It was whatever music group owns that song.
No shit. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, you can get caught for just 3 seconds. Like when you have things that get muted, like there's a lot that can get picked up on, which one of the things I didn't go into was the issue of when you talk about fair use, you also start talking about public domain rights and whatnot, like classical music. Can you play classical music on your stream? If you have the instruments to do so, yeah, go for it. That composition is in public domain. Do it. It's the mechanical recording. Mm-hmm. So that very specific recording is also licensed. So in Pretzel, we get a lot of our classical music and our some of our jazz too, because those are songs that get played a lot. And so because there are like 17 groups playing the same piece of classical music that have recordings, they're all going to be listed somewhere for their content ID. So most of them are in Audible Magic. So the Chicago Symphony Orchestra will have their version that gets flagged. But say we're using the London Philharmonic. It's 2 different recordings or 2 different groups, even though it's the exact same song. It could be even played the same arrangement, but it gets complicated.
The algorithms don't have a minimum time elapsed to start content ID.
Yeah, that's why you see things with like people getting mutes and whatnot because of like sirens in certain games and whatnot, because someone put their sound effects on Audible Magic. Is that a trolly thing to do in my mind? Yes. Don't put like the sound of popcorn happening or a blender or a car alarm. Don't put that stuff in Audible Magic. Even if you did create it, like that's just, what's the point of that in my mind? Yeah. But you can. A siren in a game apparently caused some issues.
Yep. There was I think it was wind gust or tornado noise that I saw on Twitter as well. That's it's hilarious, terrifying, and also insane at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, they had the thing of like, it was a blender that was getting tagged for dead mouse. That one was actually fake. That one wasn't real. That was just someone being dumb on the internet. Like,
and that makes sense because it's dead mouse. Because what a troll.
Yeah.
Next big myth. But so-and-so said it was safe and true.
So this is the big thing of knowing how to vet your resources, which is not a skill that everyone is born with. It's something that you should be learning in schools, having the ability to know what sources you can and can't use. Something that I like to do is go down what I call the knowledge funnel. Who wrote this? Why did they do this? How did they do this? Like, who vetted whom? I do this with a lot of things because as an anthropologist, I'm also in the science field. So there's a lot of like scientific, cultural things that just go out there and people argue. I'm like, okay, well, what publication said this? What are their backgrounds? And so you need to know that of if someone tweeted this, what's their background? Who did they get that information from? If Noah Downs tweets something, no, he's not a copyright lawyer, but yes, he is a lawyer who works in the content creation streaming industry.
Yep.
He knows what he's talking about. When I tweet stuff from my personal account, I have generally vetted that information with someone. If you want to vet me out, do it. That's what you should be doing every time. If I'm not tweeting about like things that are in my wheelhouse, like if I am telling you the exact way to clean a cast iron pan, I'm probably not your best resource for that.
You can use soap. That's a myth. You can fucking use soap all you fucking want. Quote me.
Yeah, and like if I'm telling you how to do like what is it, MIG welding? That's one thing I actually don't know how to do. I don't know how to weld. I can teach you how to use a laser confocal microscope. I'm not great at it anymore, but I can do weird things.
All right.
So like people know weird stuff. So like, yeah, maybe you do want to like extend some trust to the people if you know them and whatnot. But ask them, be like, oh, where did you learn this? How did you get this information? Like ask for their sources. Mm-hmm. Things I do with websites is like, where did they get that information? Because you really should be citing things because like I am a big person on like you cite your sources, you even cite yourself because you can plagiarize yourself. Mm-hmm. So if it's written information, you really need to check that shit out.
Yep. Like it's okay to ask why.
Yeah. Things like that are on your site, things that are on Streamer Square, things that are on Devin Nash's site, those have likely been vetted by someone else. Like everything that I put out about DMCA, I check in with my bosses at Pretzel. I check in with my friend who has read the entire document of the DMCA. Like, I make sure that these things are valid. If they don't know, then we find a way to word it. I talk to lawyers. And so, like, I make sure I know these things. So always go through and check out who's saying what. Because, like, yeah, we could come out and talk about anything. Like, if you tweet about audio stuff, I'm likely going to believe what you say because you have that knowledge and information.
Mm-hmm.
Some random person comes in chat and says, well, this means this. Like, well, you need to back up your information. Where did you get that? Like, you don't have to give me a link. Granted, when COVID first came out, we actually told people in chat, like, where are you seeing this? Can you provide me a link so we can look it up?
Yep.
If it's coming from certain news sources, certain ones we can tell because we know that those people actually vet stuff. If it's coming from some fringe website, we can tell that too. Or if it's coming from just like Grandma Betty's blog for jam making, like I mean, not to diss on Grandma Betty, but like
jams.
Yeah. Yeah, like cite your resources, vet your resources, look down the funnel of knowledge and kind of be like, okay, where is this coming from?
Yep.
Follow the paper trail of it.
Our last myth, only royalty-free or copyright-free are safe to use.
Yep. And we've touched on this. Those terms, copyright-free, it's kind of a misnomer because, like, is it really copyright-free because someone does actually own it?
Right.
What you want is properly licensed. Royalty-free just means, hey, we're not going to pay our artist on this. If you want royalty-free music, if you want royalty-free art, fine, do it. But you still need licenses. Like, even you can get Creative Commons licenses for almost anything these days. So, like, look at those. See what the Creative Commons licenses are. Check the EULAs. Check their terms of services. If there's nothing on there, if there's no information on the website, ask. How can I use? Am I allowed to use this? In what properties? On what platforms? For how long? What kind of accreditation or payments do you need? Like, ask tons of questions.
I would say out of all of the terms to search when you're looking, Creative Commons is probably the one that's going to land you the best hits because a lot of the times those have their licenses for you to view. Because if you go to YouTube and you search copyright-free music, you're going to get millions and millions of hits, and you cannot guarantee that any of those are actually copyright-free.
Yeah. And, like, if you're going to user-generated sites, you need to be careful because, like, even Creative Commons, it's one of those things of, like, I can put Creative Commons on my blog, but that just tells you how you're supposed to use the content from my blog. Mm-hmm. So, like, you really have to know how to navigate this stuff. Like, that's why I don't typically, even though we have some of them listed, like, I don't trust Spotify playlists, I don't trust Apple playlists, any kind of playlist that has been curated by someone that is not actually a company that we know has the licenses, I don't trust it.
Yep. There are very, very specific exceptions. Somebody just turned me on to, Jericho, the big Twitch streamer, Jericho.
Yeah.
He has a Spotify playlist that is copyright free, like properly licensed music. And it is a Spotify playlist. But again, like, I'm so weary of allowing or advising people to use playlists because if something else were to come up in there that wasn't, then you screwed yourself. But there are like very, very specific exceptions like that where they are okay.
Yeah, and technically there are a small handful of Pretzel playlists on Spotify. They created those back before I joined the company. They were mostly there, so if you wanted to listen to Pretzel when you're not streaming, like if you're in your car or whatever, you could do that. But, like, it's still one of those things of, like, if you know this artist is in a program that offers royalties, offers data to them, why would you not just use that? Because that benefits them. If you're going to find ways to get around it, like, try to do it in the way that does less harm and, like, may actually benefit these people.
Do you know if a mobile app is in development for Pretzel? Are you allowed to disclose?
We had one previously. The problem with mobile is it takes so much upkeep. It needs its own dev team.
Okay.
And up until this year, our sole developer that was like a full-time developer was also our CEO. We now have a chief technology officer. He was actually in chat earlier, Bosley. And so, yeah, Bosley is now our chief tech officer. He's amazing. We will say things and then all of a sudden it's magically done. Like, he's great. He's the reason why we have things like testing the chat attributions in the station or in the player settings, which I do want to say, not to ruin his joke, do not click the pretzel link for the chat attribution test live on stream because it's not pretzel music. It sends you somewhere else. I know that ruins his joke, but I'm just like, we can't get these people DMCA'd for our testing. Like,
I also wonder if percentages of the royalties would go to Apple because it's on the App Store. I don't know the legal stuff behind that.
That's one of those weird things too. Like, yeah, I don't know how that works. I have heard though that our web version of our player does work on Chrome and Android phones.
Oh, okay.
So if you got one of those, just load up play.pretzel.rocks. You can play stuff.
Gotcha.
I don't think it works on Apple. I tried it once and I think it was just it starts to load and it spins. It doesn't like Safari at all.
That's no surprise. Yeah. Who likes Safari?
Yeah. It's our player is also, it's not built for Firefox, which is one of the things I yell about because I switched over to Firefox from Chrome. Is that a bad thing? Do you hate Firefox?
I hate Firefox for uneducated and anecdotal reasons. Okay.
I switched over to it mostly because Chrome was eating up all of my RAM, and my computer it used to live in someone's closet in Canada, and he mailed it to me. It's like 10 years old. I'm surprised it's alive.
Oh my god!
So it's like I can't have Chrome because it's just I can't do anything. So I switched over to Firefox for that. But like,
okay,
the progress bar on our player changes the code and makes it really ugly. Oh. So I'm not allowed to take screenshots of our player in Firefox. I have to switch over to Chrome. Fair.
Because my job is so Microsoft focused, we use Microsoft solutions for everything. So I would say about a year ago, I switched over to the newest Edge browser, which is built on Chromium. I fucking love it. I've not used Chrome in well over a year because of how well the new Edge has treated me. It's actually kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, when I was working for Streamer Square, I had access to their Twitch account when we had live shows going. And so when I was posting from the Streamer Square account, I had it just logged in on Edge because that way I didn't have to worry about multiple logins. I could still be on my main account, and I found that I actually really liked it. I think the only thing I didn't like was when I accidentally had all of ow, why'd you bite me? Sorry.
Mom!
Cat problems.
Seriously.
The only thing I didn't like was when it automatically moved my Chrome stuff up. Oh, that's a bad idea. Sorry. I forget when I have regular t-shirts on and when I don't, and she has claws.
Please don't DMCA this channel for what might be revealed.
No.
All right, are you ready to move on to the question and answer?
Yeah.
Awesome. So the questions we're going to tackle first, because technically and chronologically these were first, we got some questions on Twitter. So the first one is from Anarchy Killswitch. Hi, Rini and Knackers fanboy. Would like to know more about the music options that you can have on stream. Some options for those still looking to have music on during streaming, and maybe other unknown options that are different from the normal ones available.
Yeah. So I think the best answer for this is all three of the sites that we've mentioned, Streamer Music, your site, the Wiki, and Devin Nash, all have things listed out. Those will have a lot that you probably have heard of, some that you haven't heard of. There are some of the main ones you're going to hear about Pretzel, which, you know, is one of the largest ones. It's one I work for. Monster Cat Gold, Epidemic Sounds. Like, they're all going to have stuff, but like the bang for your buck is going to be Pretzel. And that's like, not just because I work for them. The reason why I work from them is because I believed in what they were doing. I know the owners. I reached out and said, hey, you just need some help with things. And it ended up turning into work. And so, like, I'm someone where, like, that's how it happened at Streamer Square, too. It's like, I don't just take jobs anymore of just places for money. Like, I want to believe in the companies that I work in. And I feel very privileged that I'm able to actually do that. Doesn't always, you know, end up with me having, you know, the best, like, glam lifestyle Instagram all over the place. But, like, I at least feel very privileged that I can say, I believe in what my company is doing. I think that we are doing this correctly. I think that we are doing this right. We are making sure that artists are paid. We are making sure that we have all of the license you need. And we are making sure that we're also watching out for our streamers. Yep. Because that matters to us. Like, anything that we do, we take not only the rights holders' opinions and desires into account, we take content creators. And I'm always going to be there to bat for the streamers because, like, that's where my interest is, where I live. So, like, there's a ton of places you can look for that. Things you want to look for are explicit terms of what you can, like, where you can and can't use them, what you need to do as far as any kind of attribution. Whether or not instead of attribution you can pay and have that stuff not be there. Some of them you might have to pay and still do attribution. You just have to look into each one. If they don't say these things up front, ask. If someone says in a tweet, hey, I made this music on Bandcamp, you can use it. A tweet is not legally binding. Take that with a grain of salt.
Oh my God, I was literally just highlighting grain of salt as you were saying that. That was insane. Yeah, and that's the biggest part of it too, is bang for your buck and also ease of access. Like, the favorite thing about Pretzel and Monster Cat is they both transcend Twitch. So they go over to YouTube for when you want to create that YouTube content, which is a big thing for me.
Yep.
So, to Anarchy, to answer your question, if you head to streamermusic.com and you click on Stream Safe Music in the top, there are a shit ton, and I mean literal piles of feces ton of ones that you can choose from. They even break it down between the types of music that they have, the price, how many songs they have in the catalog, which platforms they're available on. That is probably the number one place that you should be going to.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to take it that extra step, find out how they curate their music. Is it just anything that they take from a label? Or do they actually have a process for quality? Are you getting the best of the best?
Yep. Next question. Bell Next asks, I see streamers using video game OSTs for background music. On a scale of Spotify to Pretzel. What a great question. On a scale from of Spotify to Pretzel, how safe is that to use? I will always use Pretzel, but I'm curious about playing different game soundtracks over gameplay.
That one is tricky because typically when you're playing a game on Twitch and you're using their soundtrack, you're not getting muted. It depends on whether or not the soundtrack is something created in-house by the game, or like they have hired specifically for that, or if it's something like GTA that uses a lot of popular music and brings it in. There's, God, I don't remember what game like used I don't know if it was Beatles or Paul McCartney song recently, and it was just like, this is like they had the rights to put it into the game. They didn't have the rights then for streamers to then use it.
Right.
And which is the issue with things like Just Dance and any kind of rhythm game, Beat Saber. They have the rights to use that music in the game for that specific purpose of the game. They do not have the rights to then have that be rebroadcasted. Especially not rebroadcasted to video, which is synced.
Which is an important distinction to make because, again, video games, technically, they are sold for individual consumption. But video game companies just let it go. We don't have that same privileged when it comes to music.
Yeah. And so with that, like, check out the EULA, see what it says. There should be some wording in there about broadcast and whatnot. If you like, and it was one of those things too, like there's games like Knights of the Old Republic have those original Star Wars scores in there. Is that going to get you screwed? It might. So be careful what games you're playing. Like be conscious of that. But if you're playing things like Undertale, Hollow Knight, Hades, things that have like these really beautiful soundtracks, are they going to get you screwed? Probably not. I know people like to throw out Nintendo and all these issues that they saw with Nintendo, but like what we saw was mostly Nintendo of Japan specifically tackling certain things on YouTube. Nintendo, I love them to death. I used to be a brand ambassador for them. I will always fangirl for them. But yes, Nintendo is a little behind on understanding that streaming and content creation like that is something that we love and want to do. Like it was just 3 years ago that their former Nintendo American president Reggie was like, "We don't think streaming's all that important." And it's like, dude, you said that at a Game Award type thing. Like, no.
God, I remember
so they're a little behind on that, but like, if you want to play the Persona 5 soundtrack while you're playing a different game, are you going to get booped? Audible Magic will not know what game you're playing.
That's true. Right, so, they only know the license behind the soundtrack. Yeah.
So, can you? Yeah, maybe. Mm. Am I going to say yes? Yeah. Am I going to say, yes, go do it? You have my stamp of approval? No, I will never say that on it. Mm-hmm. But like, you know, if you're not seeing it muted, if you're not seeing this, if you haven't really heard of it, chances are, yeah, if you want to chill in Minecraft and play the Final Fantasy soundtrack, I haven't heard of any cases of that going down, because how are they going to tell right now? But that's not to say the technology isn't out there for them to discover this, or that they won't build the technology in the future to be like, oh, I see your category is sports or something, and you have this soundtrack that doesn't line up. Like currently, we don't have anything for that. So.
And also, in one of the massive headlines in the past couple of years was music licenses for the Grand Theft Auto 4 radio expiring, and that causing a huge fucking thing. So what happens in a couple of years from now when the music licenses for those particular games expires, and now you have all of this content that has that song as a backing track? What are you going to do then? Yeah,
and that's one of the things like we just don't know. And I would actually say, like, ask Noah, ask his boss. Heck, like one of the lawyers we worked with is a Billboard top music lawyer. Find her, ask her. Like, ask every lawyer you know and figure this out. Because like we don't really know how this is going to play out.
We can only speculate.
Yeah. So
all right,
just be safe.
First question from chat comes from Score at Kensington. What happens if a musician hears their music on a stream and the streamer is doing things that they don't agree with, i.e. making racist comments? What's the musician's recourse in that situation to remove their art from the situation?
Again, I'm not a lawyer, but if that user doesn't have a license to use your music, you can hit them that way. If they do have a license and there's nothing in that license or contract anywhere about a morality clause, you may be shit out of luck.
Morality clause. Is that like the actual term for it?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Which always read your contracts, always read the fine print. You would be surprised at how many people sign off on things like they just want to do an app, and all of a sudden that app now has the permissions to like, unfollow, follow, tweet, whatever you want from your account, just because you want an app to do something funny. Always read the contracts of these things, because you could even find yourself in a work contract that says like technically your employers can decide how you dress. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Is it as dire as music stuff? Yeah. But I don't know.
That one is, again, it that kind of falls into the category of, can it happen? Or like, technically, can it happen? Yes.
Yeah.
Realistically, will it happen? There's probably a really low chance, but that's not what you should be basing your brand off of.
Yeah. And it's also one of those things of like, we haven't yet seen the cases come up of like, streamers have signed on saying that they will allow advertising on their streams on Twitch.
Right.
We don't have the option to choose what type of advertising. Maybe you're family friendly and you don't want to have alcohol ads. Should that be something you can opt out of?
Right.
Yeah.
Or I love Pepsi. What the fuck is this Coke gaming shit?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what happens like if you are personally sponsored by Pepsi and then Coke comes on? Like, how does that affect your personal contract?
True.
This is why, like, jumping back to like streamers need a lobby.
Yeah.
We need someone to protect us for this because, like, me as Pretzel support, do I want racist, toxic assholes using Pretzel? No, I personally do not. Mm-hmm. Do I get to decide that as Pretzel head of support? Not really. I don't like the makers of Nike can't decide who wears them, like when you're a commodity like this. And so it's really hard. It's really murky waters, and we haven't really seen what can happen. What you can do if you find out that they are a horrible person, report them to the platform repeatedly. Have as many people as you can report them. Sure. Twitch has stated that they have these brand new community guidelines. Hold Twitch accountable to them.
That famous tweet.
Yeah. And like, check your terms of services of like, what are reasons you can have a user banned from certain things. On Pretzel's help site, there's actually like, why was I banned? And there's a list of reasons why you could be banned.
Okay.
And so there's ways you could get them to not, but like, honestly, it's going to be a really hard fight to be like, oh, they're just a horrible person. I don't like them, or they don't agree with my viewpoints.
What constitutes a horrible person? Then you get murky waters, like you said. Next question from the Ice Orb. If you were a musician, how would you get onto Pretzel?
The biggest thing is that we're not taking individual artists anymore, except for special use cases. But sign up for distributors such as like DistroKid. They're one that, you know, is a pretty popular for indie artists, especially like smaller indie artists to get in on. They have these beautiful forums. It's like, I opt in to have my music here, 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 and here. And one of those options is Pretzel. They will then send all of their information as far as the recording metadata, the DDEX stuff, all these technical things that I hear in meetings but make no sense to me. They will send all of that beautiful music magic to us, and we will get you on the Pretzel player after we get everything cleared.
So basically, go ahead.
I was going to say, but what you can do is go to pretzel.rock/artist, and that is our page that will start you out with, like, here is where you should go. Pretzel's not an option at the moment. It should be, I swear. And if it's not, reach out to us on our help site and let us get you in touch with Ryan, our A&R guy, because it should be. So, or even tweet us. Be like, hey, I'm trying to find you, but I can't. I want to be on Pretzel. I'm with DistroKid, and Ryan will get a hold of you, and he'll help walk you through it.
So you are uploading your music to a distribution platform, which therefore, I mean, they're pretty much the one that are giving you the green light of I am good to be distributed.
Yeah.
Distributed. Oh my God. Distributed.
It's a weird word.
It is.
Yeah. And I have the list of distributors. Okay, we work with DistroKid, Fuga, Dashco, Symphonic, DigDis, Horus, Vidya, CI, InGrooves, APM Suite, Triple Vision, MVD, Real Playas, Label Grid, Alpha Pup Records, Create Label Engine, Rebeat Digital, Contour, and Ditto Distribution.
Holy
Those
shit.
are all the distributors that we work with currently. This will be on a help article by the end of this weekend because I have to write it.
All right. We're holding you to it now.
Yes.
Okay. Squirt Kensington had the same question. Next question from Toodle McBooty. Could content creators get a broadcaster license he said write a radio company, but I'm guessing he said like a radio company.
Technically, yes. They're not cheap. And a broadcast license won't necessarily cover you for everything that you need. Again, this is where sync licenses come in, and we're big advocates that if you are doing music plus video or any kind of audio plus video, you need sync. That's the whole point of sync license. And so, yeah, you can, but make sure you look into the types of licenses that you need and make sure that you're getting the right one. Because you don't want to get one that's like the license that bars need to get for karaoke. You don't want to get one that the DJs need to do their things. Like, even like the ASCAP BMI stuff that people get for these public performances, some of that is mainly for establishments to use as like background music when you're like at a grocery store or something or in a bar. Like, they're very specific. So make sure you're actually looking into like what the use cases are for that.
Right, because there's a difference between the background music and then the performance of said music.
Mm-hmm.
Next question, also from Ice Orb. Follow up to my question about musicians getting onto Pretzel live track review? ? So I'm wondering if he was like, "Hey, listen to my shit live, so I can DMCA your ass." Fuck you, Ice Orb! Get out of here.
Yeah. We don't do constructive criticism stuff. If you want that stuff, you could probably hire the folks at 99 Lives to talk to you about music stuff, or like, heck, I also know like independent audio engineers who do mastering and stuff, and you could hire him as a consultant. He's great.
Does your cat scream every time he jumps up on the desk?
Yes.
I can hear it very, very faintly. It's only funny because when my cat jumps up on the desk, he does like a little moan. Every time your cat has jumped up, all I hear is
yeah. She has a very like Chicken Little, the world is ending meow.
I fucking love it. That's awesome. Oh my god. All right, last question from Weenie. Is that a Target Featherly Friends bird in the back?
Yes, there are 3 of them there. There are 3 of them over there. There's one over there. I collect them.
Oh shit, okay.
I mostly have the winter ones, but I also have a Day of the Dead one as well, and I'm trying to get the spring ones. I love the shit out of these birds. I keep the tags on so I know their names. It's like, if you want to get me a gift and you don't know what it is, go to Target and get me one of these damn birds.
Oh, Target as in Target the store?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're very specific. Okay, cat, get down so I can grab a bird. Yeah, this is the one my mom got me for Christmas this year, or one of the ones I think she got me.
Oh,
its name is Rocky. He's got a little puffer vest and flannel and a little hat.
Like Philadelphia Rocky?
Yep.
Oh,
they all have like a little tag on their ankle too that has their name and the year that they came out.
So
people go nuts over them.
It's Beanie Babies for the current generation.
They're Beanie Babies for elder millennial and Gen Z.
Elder millennial.
These are our new Beanie Babies. Like,
oh my god!
You can go. Like, I have seen people who are like going wild on websites. Like, they're live. Go to the store now. And I'm like, hot damn.
I had no idea this existed. I'm totally on the out for this kind of stuff.
I have a weird obsession with them, and I have the smaller ones because at Christmas time they have smaller ones that are ornaments. I have a whole bunch of the smaller ones that I put on my Christmas tree.
Oh, okay. I feel they look familiar to me, but I couldn't put my finger on where they were actually from. So now I know.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think Weenie and I are going to become best friends.
It sounds like it. You got the witchcraft. You got the birds. We've got the cats. Oh boy. Well, Rini, that is the end of the Q&A. Without even trying, we almost dropped about 3 hours talking about DMCA, and that was with skipping a couple parts of the script as well. So first and foremost, I just want to thank you for how much work you put into this show. Chat, if you would have seen the script that Rini dropped for this podcast. It's probably the longest script in Crocs and Hot Pockets podcast history. And she organized it, she detailed it, she linked sources. It was just so impressive. And to have somebody as passionate, and I'll even go as far as to say is more passionate about this particular subject, like to have somebody who cared as much to bring as much education and value to the end user, I greatly appreciate your efforts. So thank you.
Yeah. When I was doing the modcast with Wes on Streamer Square, this is basically what I did every week with our outlines. Is he's like, here's the topic. I'm like, do you feel bad if I just do the whole thing? He's like, I want you to do the whole thing.
And this is honestly, this relationship couldn't have come at a better time, because I've started to deviate my content over towards more the educational, valuable stuff where it's planned, scripted content targeting specific topics, and us coming together, Twitch releasing their live broadcast on their updates with DMCA, like it all came together at such a perfect time. And like I feel fulfilled hosting this type of content. So I'm hoping that there are people that get some value out of it as well. Like, this is the shit that I love creating, and to have you here to tag team it has been a great experience.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Like, I always get like nervous doing this kind of stuff, but like, I absolutely love education and educating things. One of my mentors in grad school was like, your superpower is explaining things. And if I get the opportunity to learn something and then share it with someone else, like that's my life goal. That's what I want to do with my life. Is just learn things myself and then share that with as many people as I can.
Yep.
So yeah, I love talking DMCA stuff. I hope that, we don't see this massive doomsday event of DMCA strikes taking content creators off the platform and ending their livelihood. I don't want to see that at all. But do I think it's a possibility? Yes. Do I think that's what our industry is going to quote unquote need for anyone to take this seriously? Sadly, yeah. I think it's going to happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And we're just going to be sitting here being like, I don't want to say I told you so, because it feels super shitty to be like, I told you you're going to lose your livelihood, but like, we have tried to give you so many tools. Please let us help you.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen the video of a bus driver uppercutting some lady off of a bus for spitting on him, or is like spitting on him or hitting on him?
No.
Okay, so there's this video. It's pretty old. There's a lady who is trying to get on a bus, and I think she assaults the bus driver. And he gets up and he goes, "You going to jail now? You going to jail now?" And then just goes, and just uppercuts. Like, do I want to hurt you? No. But you've been fucking taunting me for years and years and years, and now you're just going to get a fat fist to the inside of your mouth. And I'm sorry, I didn't want to, but I'm going to have to sock you in the mouth.
Yeah, and there have been people in the music industry, especially like A2IM, Richard Burgess, was talking about how like they do not want to punish streamers for this. They want to find a way to work with streamers. The music industry is not necessarily out for individual content creators. They're out for Twitch. Yeah. Because Twitch has said, hey, you want this? Nah, we're going to do it our own way. Like, Twitch is basically just not coming to the table with things that the music industry feels is reasonable. Twitch feels that the music industry is not being reasonable on their side. They're at a stalemate, essentially, from everything that we've seen so far. Who knows, maybe after the town hall, Jeremy got into a call with like all the majors and worked something out. That would be neat. Do I think it'd put Pretzel out of business? No.
Right.
I still don't think so. I still think we're doing things pretty well. But yeah, it's I don't know. This whole thing is just, I get nervous for all of this, and I just want to see people thrive and survive, because streaming is such a unique thing, and it's where all of our community building is going for the most part. It's this new generation of things, and it's for all ages. Like, the people who I see thrive the most are like our generation of people.
Right.
And I don't want to see people have to start their lives over in their 30s and 40s just because they decided to play an AC/DC song.
Barred from one of the things that they love the most that brought them an immeasurable amount of joy, and for a silly mistake like a DMCA or copyright to shield you from that.
Yeah. This is all preventable. Does it suck? Yes. Like, you do not have to agree with the why of DMCA, but you need to understand how it works.
Right.
That way you can best protect yourself and you can best work to fight to change it. If you don't like it, work to change it.
Listen, sex without a condom is still sex. It doesn't feel as good, but you're still getting some. So fucking play by the rules and you won't get chlamydia. That's basically what the message we're trying to convey.
You just called pretzel prophylactic.
I'm sorry. You're welcome. Branding 10 out of 10. I went to school for this shit. And when I mean school, I mean I graduated high school with a 2.2. Anyways.
The best sounding Magnum prophylactic you're ever going to find. But yeah.
Pretzel is extra large in case you guys were worrying about the size. Rini, that is going to conclude the podcast. Please do me a favor. Reintroduce yourself to anybody who doesn't know who you are. If you want to highlight any special events that you or Pretzel has coming up, now is the time to sell out.
So yeah, I'm Rini, AdorkablyRini across all platforms. You're primarily going to find me modding on Twitch. If you like cat pictures, go to my Instagram. It's all cat pictures and food stuff. I'm not doing any big special events other than hopefully by this summer we'll be launching a VTube channel called Awesome Possum. It's I'll put it in chat because it's spelled different. Which is essentially me as a cartoon poorly drawn possum that I've drawn myself, hopefully turning into a VTube avatar and playing games and having just a general cultural talk called Trash Talk to talk to people just about their lives and stuff. So, of course, Knackers, you're going to be on that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, yeah, this has been fun. If you want to find more about my weird background, just poke me anytime and I'll come back on.
Awesome. Chat, you guys are all fantastic. Thank you so much for chilling with us and enduring I know for the most part, a lot of this is like, oh my God, DMCA. I've heard so much about it. It's nonstop. But our mission was to arm you guys with as much information as possible so that you could protect yourselves doing what you love most, creating content, playing video games, and streaming. So we both really hope that you're able to come away from tonight with a little bit more information than you had before. And again, just thank you all so very much for hanging out with us. And Rini, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was great. I'm happy to finally meet you in as close to person as I can.
Internet is great, and sex with condoms is still sex. Okay?
Sex. All right.
All right, Rini, have a great night. Bye.